All right, you're unmuted.
All right, we'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting. It's a special meeting to begin a discussion of the budgets for July 13th, 10:30 a.m. in the Frank Walter House Boardroom. And could we get roll call, please?
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Here.
Roloff, absent, Bowers,
Here.
Trigg.
Here.
Each stand, please. Gary.
Gracious God, as we come before you today to discuss important matters, we ask for your guidance and wisdom. Help us to focus on our community and be thankful for all our blessings. And thank you for the 250th anniversary of this great country, and I hope people remember sacrifices given by people to have what we have. In your name I pray.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. You had the agenda in advance of the meeting, and of course, this is a singular purpose. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Trigg moves to approve the agenda as presented.
Markey will support. Thank you. If there's no additional comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Is there any public input before we get started? We'll close public input. And Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. You all have a nice thick packet of multicolored papers in front of you. So for those that are new, this is their first budget, Lynn. So what we'll do today as well as next week is we're going to go through all these packets. Now, I try to color code them so it's a little easier for all of you to kind of find what you're looking for. You should all have a ruler in front of you too so that you can follow along. How we've done it over the last 5 years is that if someone's budget is not changing, if they have a flat budget, there's nothing out of the ordinary being requested, those staff persons don't have to come in front of you. We will go over them at a high level with you as administration. If departments are new, they have special requests, their budget is increasing, their revenue structure is changing drastically, those sorts of things, those staff persons are going to be in front of you, and we'll kind of tag team going through those budgets together specifically. So what you have in front of you, you also got digitally in your email, so you might have been able to look at them through the weekend. But what we're going to do today is we're going to start with the airport authority, and then we'll move on to the health department because there's a pretty short, and then we'll move into staff that may be a little more cumbersome. So the first one is going to be green with like a pinkish purplish table.
What?
And you're going to end up going to the second to last page, which is going to be 295.
He's looking for the number, Katie.
Oh, it's 295. So for your purposes, Tim, it's gonna start with 230. It's this one. See, Betsy.
You said it's the second to the last page.
Actually, it's the third to the last page.
to the last page.
Sorry.
Okay.
So the third to the last page is the revenue, and then the second to the last page is the expenditures, and then the last page, I don't know why it popped it to the last page, Excel hates me. So I'll let Brooke kind of go over. As you know, we are into a new partnership agreement because we were able to add Crystal Lake in recently, and so these dollar amounts are kind of set in stone. So she'll quickly go over that with you, and if you have any questions for her, you're welcome to ask those.
Good morning. My name is Brooke Pop, Frankfurt Dow Memorial Field. I spoke to you, I think maybe back in March, and I presented our budget to you then. We have, and at that point, I was requesting a $15,000 appropriation versus the 12, I believe we've asked for in the past.
Mm-hmm. And so this 15,000 does come out of the general fund. So when we go through the general fund, you're going to see the transfer out, the 101,966. That'll show the amount being transferred out. This dollar amount was part of that whole relationship that we reformed with Crystal Lake and the city of Frankfurt. So that's kind of where it lands. It comes out of the general fund specifically. We used to pay less as a contribution, but that was when the county was actually handling payroll and other things specifically. But now that that's all done in-house at the airport, we're just paying a dollar amount and that's it. I don't know if you have questions because it isn't a raised amount. Anything that you guys might have.
Katie, we say it's a raised amount, but if you look at the prior year or the current year,
Mhm.
says we paid 15,000.
Yes, but you only approved 12 and then we did a budget amendment up to that 15. This is your first time where you're approving 15 at face value. Last time you wanted Brooke to come in and do kind of a report before you would release that other 3,000.
So we've done 15,000 though for the last 2 or 3 years.
Last year, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
So what you're
Show 24, 25. which-
That's because this is showing you the same fiscal year more than once, because remember, it's amended and activity. And so you're seeing the same fiscal years more than once on here. So it would look like it's 4 years, but it's really not. It's 2.
Let's open it up to questions.
I'm just going to comment. I believe our memorandum of understanding talks about this specifically, that we were going to, it's going to be 15 from us, 15 from Crystal Lake, and 15 from City of Frankfurt, correct?
Is that conditional?
I don't recall it being conditional.
No. It was not.
Is there any ramifications if a municipality that's included in this memorandum of understanding does not give the funds?
I don't recall there being a ramification per se spelled out.
I'm just curious. I did.
Right. I mean, there are some aspects in the statute, but, you know, they would be failing in their agreement
Mhm.
with you if, let's say, the city or the township did not pay or could not pay. That's basically.
So as I understand it, the authority is based on 3 owners. So really, they would be violating the relationship with the other 2 owners, and it would be up to the other owners to confront them about that.
Correct,
Mhm.
right.
Seeing how we used to pay 12,
Say again, please.
seeing how we used to pay 12. I'm just curious, do we have a written agreement that we're going to go this route?
Yes.
I don't want it to expand all the time is my
No.
concern.
No, yeah, the new MOU that we were able to put in place with all 3 entities did spell out that. And so she's not coming back for more dollars. That would be looking back into that agreement and reestablishing new fees. It
So we
would
do
be a
have
much bigger
some-
process. Yeah.
Great, well,
Right.
thank you.
And the additional 3,000, so that was like, let's say the dollar figure put on the bookkeeping aspect. So I have taken that on myself. And I think in one of your cost analysis a couple years ago, it showed that the county was actually spending $5,000 on that rather than the
Mhm.
3.
Yeah, but we're
So-
looking at 9, right? Everybody kicked up 3. Was any of that money going to our treasurer when she was doing the payroll and stuff?
No,
I
that
know
was,
Shelley used to do that.
that was part of, that was why we paid less than the city of
Well, that's-
Frankfurt, is because we were doing some of the work.
Mhm.
So that's why we were paying less, is because we were doing some of the work, whereas Frankfurt wasn't doing any work, they were just paying. So now that Brooke has taken on that work, we're now coming up equal with Frankfurt's payment and the Crystal Lake Township. That's why.
I don't have a problem with it. I just want clarity.
Yeah. Nope. That's why we paid less, was to offset the work.
Any other questions? Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Brooke.
much.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
But you're gonna keep her till.
Keep me another hour.
So mean,
At another meeting, I would like to come back after it slows down a bit and let you know how the summer went. There's a lot of new things that we're doing and
Well, since you brought it up, Brooke, there's this overlay that you're looking at too, apparently.
right. With
And I don't want to get into that today, but
Mhm.
I continue to get contacts about that and some
Right.
concerns.
There's a lot of miscommunication. And Corey's been working directly with the planning commission at the township to move us forward. So, and we have a contact at MDOT that is willing to come up and talk with the township too.
Thank you.
We also have aerial tours coming. They should be available in a couple of weeks and they'll be out of our airport. Really, it is. It's really nice. I took a ride yesterday, so.
You may want to stick Gary on one of those planes.
No, you,
No,
Come on, Gary.
it was incredible.
last one I rode on C-130 and with a couple of trucks in front of me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so the next one we're gonna move on is to the health department. The health department's in two, because there is the general fund allocation that is given to the health department. But then as the fiduciary, because they're a subsidiary unit of the county, they also have their own fund for their overall budget. So we'll start with yellow paper and blue table. It'll say road commission at the top, 201, and then towards the bottom, you'll see fund 221, which is the health department.
Yellow paper, blue top.
Got it. Very honest, road shower.
Budget for the in-house. Yeah, that's right.
Starting with the front page.
Yep, and then towards the bottom, you'll see where it says 221 Health Department.
201 or 2?
So 221 is Health Department, 201 is Road Commission.
Okay. Good morning.
I can't help with the colors. Mine doesn't have the color.
It's okay.
This is where I have my
Birthday blue,
problems.
kid. Being so special.
Let's let everybody get there.
Good morning.
Hey, Dan.
Morning. Dan Thorell, I'm the health officer for Benzie District Health Department, and
I'm on the finance or director of administrative services for the health department.
so yeah, I appreciate you allowing us to speak this morning, and basically looking at this next fiscal year as far as local appropriations. We are asking for requesting a 3% increase over last year, which amounts to a total of
Before
200.
you get too far, let's go over
Okay.
the yellow, because that's what they have.
Oh, okay.
So the
Sorry.
yellow specifically is the overall 221 Benzie Leon Health Department fund. So the in and outs that are from a cash standpoint, similar to the road commission, we hold the dollars and move the dollars, and then they make their own payments. So what we're looking at from an overall fund standpoint for in and outs, for charges for services, interest and deposits, and then charges or contracted services is about a $6 million overall fund. So you'll see that this current fiscal year that we're in, we budgeted about $5.5 million. We put it up to $6 million, which based on activity, we may end up raising that. But this really is, they're bringing in the dollars and then paying out the dollars. We're just the holder of those dollars. Any
This is
question?
Pass through.
Correct. So is there any question on that piece of it?
Any portion of this general fund dollars.
Not this part, no.
Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself.
You're fine. So now, now you're gonna want to go to the hot pink with black table. And that's gonna be the general fund allocation, which I'll let Dan go a little more in depth onto, because this is where typically you guys want to speak a little more, because this is the general fund allocation to the health department specifically.
Which pages?
You gotta go down to 101,
Okay, 101.
101,649.
What page would that be?
Or no, 601, 101, 601. I forgot to do page
You
numbers
didn't
again.
number anything yet.
Sorry.
101, 601?
Yes, sorry, I'm a failure.
Back.
Well, 822 in the spreadsheet.
What'd you say?
It's row 822 in the spreadsheet.
101, 601. It does say health department at the top of the section.
That's there. Yep. Or just give me the last page. There it is. Sorry.
Is it in
Okay.
numerical order? Because I'm struggling.
Looks like it's the fourth page from the last.
Fourth from the last? Thank you. That's helpful.
Well, it starts on the 5th from the last.
Fifth from the last, okay.
At the very bottom. Is where it starts.
Okay.
With the appropriation.
That D8.
It is.
Okay. There's that, yeah. That's the number that matches.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody there?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Now the appropriation.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah, my timing's off today.
It's all right, it's Monday.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we're requesting a 3% increase over what was paid in appropriations last year, which was 276,564. And that increase would approximately be about, well, it is $8,272. And some of the reasoning behind that, I mean, I've been here a couple of times talking about some of the staffing challenges we've had because of budget cuts and whatnot, coming in from federal dollars and state dollars. And this doesn't really have anything to do with that. I mean, we've had to make adjustments, right, with staff. We haven't hired, fortunately we only had to let one person go. But this is more focusing on just our hard costs of, anything from utilities to janitorial services to our software services that we have. Everything is going up. And I know you already know this because you're grappling with this here at the county, I'm sure. So just trying to keep pace so we don't get way far behind. Just asking for that 3% increase to try to keep up with those hard costs. And then also, and I've mentioned before too, when I've been here, and I was here a month ago, talking about our fiscal 25 annual report and just how important these local dollars are for because everything that we get from grants or whatnot are so siloed and so specific that having the local dollars to be able to not only be flexible to plug in where we need it, but also we were able to get match dollars off of that. So usually like a 2-to-1 ratio. So for Medicaid outreach and things of that nature. So they really are valuable for the community.
Just for
Anything you wanna add?
clarification, does everybody understand that column 5, where it says activity through 9/30, is actually activity through what date, Katie?
So the system doesn't put the date you print or download the report on that column. It just puts the end of the fiscal year. So that activity through date is going to be a day of last week. So I printed these throughout last week. And so really it's activity through last week specifically, but the system just puts the end of the fiscal year. That's why it says 9/30. There's still activity to be had typically in those lines. The system doesn't give you a great report.
Is there any reason to believe that under the column 4 amended budget, that is a better reflection of what's going to get spent? Is that correct?
Yes. So, yes, so column 4, which is the amended budget, yeah, that's what's budgeted for the rest of the fiscal year. Activity is activity through last week. And then the final one is the requested. Original budget would be what you originally approved last year during budgeting. The reason that sometimes the amended is different is for various reasons. So you could have received a grant. We could have received more revenue than we expected. An expenditure may have exceeded what we expected. And throughout the fiscal year, our office and the treasurer's office were doing amendments and adjustments. You see the amendments because those affect the bottom line. Adjustments, you're not seeing those because we do those administratively. And so to ensure that we're not ever putting a payment out there that causes a line to go into the red, we'll do adjustments to make sure the funding is appropriate in the budget. So that's why sometimes the amended column is different than the original column.
Are there any questions for Dan?
I do have one, Dan. What
Mhm.
percentage raise did the staff get?
I'm sorry.
What? You only did 1.5%?
Yes. Right.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, we're, to be competitive in the marketplace and whatnot, we're hoping to be able to do a little bit better this year, but we're in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I would only struggle if it was more than the county was able to give the staff. So that's interesting information. Thank you.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, they have not asked for an increase in over.
We did last year.
We did last year.
Yeah.
We asked last year?
Yes. Yeah. And before that, it was 3 years. We kept it flat because we were getting
Yeah. well, it
a
was
lot of
long
funding. Yeah, it had been a while because of all the, but we were getting a lot of the COVID funding, which, we didn't need an increase. We were
I was mistaken, but I don't see this as outrageous.
Any other comments or questions for Dan?
So just so you're aware, when we go through the overall general fund, we'll high level over that again. The general fund that I did present to you is balanced, including that 3%. So,
Balanced with surplus.
correct.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Just that easy.
I appreciate your questions. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to be here, to both of you.
Mhm.
All right, who would like to go first? Joe, you want to go first? Come on in. Okay. So Joe is for animal control, and I'm gonna kind of go through it mostly for Joe, but Joe's here to answer any questions that you guys have. But as you know, Joe's brand new on the block, so I wasn't gonna throw him at the wolves, not that you're wolves. So it's gonna be white paper, a blue table with an orange header. And it's 251. Your copy.
You said white with a.
White
Blue
with a
table.
blue table with an orange header, and it's 251.
Right to the orange.
Tim, did you find it?
Orange to you.
Yep.
Isn't that orange?
What?
Round.
No, it's near the,
It's burnt orange.
Yeah, I've been through this several times, so it's not anymore. Yeah, got it, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Hasn't been approved yet. I don't want to muddy the water. Everybody there? Yes?
Yep.
All right, so starting with the animal control, this one, of course, looks a lot different than last year for many reasons. As part of the general operating millage reset, animal control is going to be coming into the general fund. That means there's no separate millage, no separate levy for animal control. So that's why you'll see on this spreadsheet, the current real property tax, that column is blank because there's no levy to be had. Animal control expired with the 2025 tax year. So last winter was the last time that the community would see animal control by itself on the tax bill. So that's why it is empty. You will then see a pretty large number for budgeted use of fund balance. That's because we're exhausting the fund balance within the 251 to balance this budget, because then next year it's going to be part of the general fund to support these operations. So that is one of the big changes that you're going to see. The other big change that you're going to see is that the budget is a bit higher. And that is for also many reasons. One of them being you authorized the employment of a second officer in addition to a director. So obviously that costs more money to employ additional folks. And so it is a bit higher there. You will see that there's no administrative fees that are going to be taken, and that is because, again, it's coming into the general fund and there's not fund balance to support that transfer if we wanted to do it. Now looking at the rest of it, it's pretty well flat. When you're looking at kennel licenses, dog licenses, those are about the same. We are anticipating more contributions and donations. Joe has a great mindset of community. And so we're getting out into the community a lot more. Joe was in the parade and walked some of the dogs. And so we are seeing some of those contributions and donations already tick up for animal control. So we're estimating more revenue specifically for that purpose because we're into the community a lot more and the community is seeing the face of animal control and supporting that way. Going down into it specifically, again.
Katie, are you done with revenues?
Yeah, sure.
It seems like we're increasing contributions by 1/3. If you go back a couple of years, we've never hit the 10, 15,000. There's a certain amount of risk. I realize it's only $5,000, but there's a certain amount of risk budgeting that.
We've already exceeded 10,000 for this year. That's why we're anticipating, that's why we bumped it up a little bit. We're already at about $10,915 for this year already. And we anticipate that continuing to rise the rest of this fiscal year. And so that's why we felt comfortable with a $5,000 increase, because this increase is started quickly coming in now that we've kind of changed the direction of where we're going with animal control.
And as we get into expenses, you'll identify for us areas we can cut back if we fall short of that.
Mhm. Is there anything you want to add to the revenue side of things, Joe, on the front page?
Yeah, with the new budget, obviously, we're gonna have a full-time officer coming in. With that, we're gonna be looking at probably another car, equipment for him, and some training. That's the only thing that's gonna be new, so that's all I got.
You're talking about expenses now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the expenses specifically as well, you'll see the biggest change obviously is the wages and then medical, dental, vision. With an additional person comes added costs, and we got about an 8% increase in our medical, dental, vision. So that's going up across the board for everybody in the county. We did bring some other things down as we saw necessary. The HSA reimbursement is coming down a little bit, and that's because when we plan ahead for the future, we usually budget families, and then when you don't hire families and it's a double or a single, that number comes down as well. So we're thinking about that in that situation specifically. FICA Social Security came down a bit. We had overshot that last year, so we brought that down specifically too. And then the other ones, gas, oil, and grease, that's going up. That's going up just across the board. But then in addition, if we have another vehicle, that went up a little bit. And so going down there, contracted services is coming down a little bit. We had overshot that because we had new programs up there. And so there was an estimate as to how much it was going to cost. The program that we're using for adoptions, you pay by adoption. So sometimes you overshoot or undershoot that because you're paying by adoptions. So we don't know how many animals are going to be adopted, right? So that's the issue there. Animal expenses is typically the one that is more than we need. And that is because we have very generous people in Benzie County. And a lot of times, while we plan to pay for the expenses of the animals from vet care to those sorts of things, people will just come forward and pay bills at the vet clinic for us. And so that is typically the one that is budgeted a bit higher because we're thinking we're paying for everything related to these animals. And that's the one that the community is so generous, we don't pay for all that. But the second we didn't budget for all those animal expenses, that'd be the year that nobody paid the bill. And so that's the one where there's usually some wiggle room if needed. And then equipment, obviously we went up a bit because as Joe said, we're gonna have to buy some additional equipment for the new officer. We have belts and gun, bulletproof vests and stuff in stock, but they don't just fit anybody. If you don't have the same body type, sometimes you can't use the same belt, right? And so we're thinking about those things. The next person may not be the size of the prior person. And so we may have to buy some of those things specifically. The vehicle will actually be part of the 401. So we'll go through that when we go through the 401.
And is that, are you anticipating that, or is that going to be a discussion?
What?
The second vehicle?
That'll be part of the discussion. Right now I have it planned for as part of balancing that fund. But it's up to you as a discussion if you don't want to buy a second vehicle.
And are these take-home vehicles?
No, the animal control doesn't typically take them home at all. It'd be like case by case if something was happening or if somebody was on call for a certain reason because there's an event. It's very infrequent, if ever. Yeah. Any questions on that?
When's the take home?
Okay,
Yes, Kyle was taken home.
when's the anticipated activity towards hiring the animal control officer?
this fiscal year yet.
Okay, that was-
An offer has been extended to somebody who we anticipate starting rather quickly.
Okay.
Because it was an internal candidate. And so, pretty soon. And we'll bring that person here for you all to meet them.
Okay. And I know it's a small amount, but what constitutes a uniform? And how many sets of that are we talking about?
So, usually it's 2 to 3 pairs of pants, 2 to 3 tops. We have our summer gear, and then
Okay.
obviously when it gets colder, the short sleeves, long sleeves. As far as equipment, you're looking at a vest, belt, and then the accessories that go on the belt as far as like pepper spray, baton holder, flashlight holder, so stuff like that.
What about boots?
There is a
outerwear, that kind of stuff? 'Cause
yeah,
it
there's
gets
a
expensive.
allowance for boots too.
All right. Thanks.
And then, you also have radios? Do you have radios
Yep.
on you? Okay.
Yeah, we currently do have 2 radios over there. They are older. So for now they will work. I just discovered I was down in dispatch. My emergency button on my radio does not work. I don't know if it's that brand of radio or what's going on. We have talked. I am trying to look into getting new radios, so maybe we can budget that in. They work for now, but the emergency button is kind of important. You know, if I or the new officer gets into a situation where we cannot key up on our mic, we can hit that button and it automatically goes to central dispatch, knowing that, you know, it tells them, okay, something is wrong. On my current radio, it does not work.
Since we're here on animal control, I would like to touch on the fact that I have heard from a couple different avenues that there is a sentiment that rolling in the animal control fund is an attempt to, I'm just gonna, for lack of a better term, short fund them. And I want to be very clear here that we're adding to the animal control fund. We want them to be well-staffed, and we want you to have what you need and have the accommodations up to the regulations they need to be. So I just want to dispel that as much as we can. The budget
100%.
is significantly increased. It has not decreased.
100%. Yes, we are fully vested into the animal control department. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to meet the demand of the community from a control and a shelter standpoint. And so, no, there's no shortcomings to that budget. We're trying to do what's best.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So I have a couple. Do you carry a firearm?
I do.
All right, do we have to budget anything for that? And
That was talked. There is a possibility for the second officer, per his history. That is a possibility for him. And we will look at that at, you know, that time comes. It'll be a while because of training. I will have to get him certified through MDARD. That takes a while. He will not be out on his own for a few months. He will be with me in training.
But that would come back here for an amendment, right?
Yes, correct. So at this point, we're not assuming that that's going to be the case, but it's not off the table as far as the other person carrying a firearm. We're going to, evaluate the situation, the person, the need, and then we'll go from there.
Joe, we've had some discussions before you arrived here about maybe reinstituting the advisory committee. Would that require per diems?
If you ask my opinion on that, I'm always going to say no. I don't support per diems in general. So that'd be up to this board if you wanted to institute per diems. We have a pretty tight budget, and so I don't like throwing per diems out just because.
You know what, I'm still unclear under what circumstances we pay and don't pay, with the exception of the EDC, because that's by statute, but.
They're pretty much the only ones that don't get paid because of statute. Everyone else, you guys have taken the liberty to pay per diems to. And that was established well before me, so I don't know the methodology. I'm guessing most of us don't know why.
I thought that I read you're either assigned to it or you're invited or directed to go by the chair.
We're talking about committee members in general, though.
Oh,
They all
committee
get per
members.
diems, and there's
Okay.
no reason that they need to be. We do per diems and mileage. I've said for 5 years that that's very foreign to me. We never did that in the cities that I worked for. People were truly volunteers to those committees. Now, there is an argument that it's hard to get volunteers, so I can understand the trade-off. But at the end of the day, we pay a lot of money out in per diems to all the people who serve on all the committees, and we have a very, very tight budget. And it's not a requirement. It's a nice thing that we do.
And we don't even know how big that committee would be yet. And I get all of that, but we've set a precedence already in this county of paying per diems.
Mhm.
Could we shift any money from animal expenses if we had to?
Potentially, but like I said, the second you don't budget for it, that's where you're not going to have the donations to pay for those bills. The fund balance is maxed out to balance this budget as is. So those dollars are coming from your general fund, really.
Yeah, again, we don't even know the frequency that this group would meet. We know nothing about it, but
Correct.
personally, I think you ought to put a line item in there and let's just see where we go. Does anybody feel differently about that? I'm not saying plug anything in right now, but
Right.
because it might be you only meet on a quarterly basis. I have no idea.
So when you
I
say,
know is we pay $50 per.
when you say like advisory committee, what are you like an animal control advisory committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We've had it in the past. We disbanded it and it's been a discussion to reinstitute it.
In the
Quite
past,
frankly, we were waiting for you to see if it was something that you wanted to support or something you wanted to have in place. So I don't know if you want to sit with that for a while and come back to us
Yeah.
and let us know.
Yeah, I will.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old one wasn't an actual official committee, in the sense of the Board of Commissioners never officially established it. And so they weren't getting per diems initially. And so if we were going to officially establish it, we would take the steps to do that. But the one in the past wasn't an official county committee. It was just a group, it was mostly a group of folks from the Animal Welfare League that were meeting with the animal control staff on more of an unofficial basis. So.
Okay, well, maybe I'm raising an issue that doesn't need to be raised. It just I needed to make sure we were thinking about it.
I think Commissioner Nye's suggestion for Joe is great. Sit with it, see if it's something you want to explore and why or why not. And we'll go from there.
I just would say that there has been some interest from those people that have been most vocal in the community. There has been interest, but we can discuss that more thoroughly at another time. Any other questions regarding the budget? All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go with Rachel next. Rachel is here representing Central Dispatch. Let me find that one for you. That's going to be a blue page and it's 261. It's a blue page with a blue top banner and gray table.
It's the last one I find, but I don't know if I can find it or not.
What's the number? Okay.
261.
261. Let me know when everyone's there.
There we go. Yep.
Is it top?
Oh, it's a blue banner at the top, Gary, not green.
Not green, it's 50. Well, I think I don't own one.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
Blinder in trouble.
I want stuck together. That ain't it.
Fine.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a new guy found it. How come I can't?
No, you don't want me to answer that. Not publicly.
A new guy. Been a new guy for
That
10
ain't it.
years.
Did you say it?
261, blue paper, blue top banner.
You didn't give me.
Hey, it's like this.
I know what it looks like now, but I don't. It's not it, is it?
I think you just had it in your hand.
No, that's not it.
No, it's got a green top. Let's see in there either. To find it.
Yeah, you don't have it.
Well, very fun.
Here, Tim's got one for you too.
Tim's got one. Let's do
Yeah.
it, Tim.
Here it is.
Well, there it is.
How did that happen? I love screen time.
I know. Thank you.
All right, everybody's there.
Everybody's got it? Okay.
Okay. All right, so Central Dispatch Fund 261. So as you know, the revenue for this fund is through the surcharge. We've talked about the surcharge at length over time. And so you will see here, we are budgeting the use of quite a bit of fund balance to balance this budget. Just like years in past, the only saving grace for this budget has been that the fact we're not fully staffed. We want to be fully staffed. It's not ideal that we're not fully staffed, but from a budget standpoint, it does help the bottom line because we're not spending those dollars specifically. So we are budgeting the use of fund balance of $220,000 and some change. And then also the transfer in from the general fund, which is for lien. So the Central Dispatch is performing those services on behalf of the general fund and the animal control fund and the EMS fund. So that's additional revenue that's transferred into the Central Dispatch Fund to help balance that. Let's see. Any questions on the revenue to start? It's only upticked just a tick.
Gonna ask if that increased at all. Much.
It increased a little bit, yep.
But increased a little bit.
The revenue.
So Katie, under the surcharge, in 24-25, we collected about 643,000.
Mm-hmm,
We're expecting we're gonna collect something less than that this year.
mm-hmm.
So why would we? It looks to me as if that's a declining number. And based on what's happening in the real world, people are doing away with landlines.
Correct.
More of our residents seem to have second homes and their billings are going somewhere else. How confident are we that we can stay flat on that?
Well, you can explain how it really is a crapshoot for the local surcharge.
It is because, like you were just mentioning, a lot of our residents, if this is their second home, chances are their phone bill is going to wherever they live before. With all the tourists and people who come up just for the summer, we don't collect any money from them.
Yeah, I understand. So I hope you'll point out to us as we're going through there, some areas within the expense side that we could make adjustments to if we have a shortfall on revenue.
Katie, I need to-
Yes,
Okay.
we will point that out for you. All
And
right,
I do apologize with Corey leaving and resigning. He did all the budget stuff, so I'm figuring it out, and Katie's office is helping me immensely. Corey kept really good notes with everything. His mind was very budget
friendly.
friendly and savvy, so.
Well, we appreciate you taking it on. We'll be gentle, I promise.
So Katie, to start, the 240 is a transfer in from the fund balance, right?
No, 220 is fund balance because then 20's from other funds, general fund and sort. The 220 is fund balance,
Okay, but still
but then 240 is overall.
from the general fund. I'm
No,
not saying that right?
no, you're not.
Okay.
So the 220 is the Central Dispatch Fund balance. So they have a fund balance within their fund.
Yep.
We're using that to balance. And then the transfer in lien courts, that's general fund transfer in lien courts. So
Okay.
the overall is 240. And then we go down into Department 325. And I think that's what's throwing you off, Rhonda. The first one, the department is 000, and then the other revenue is 325.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay, so moving into the appropriations, telephone is staying flat. Some of these stay flat because we know what the bills are going to be. The insurance, liability and property insurance, that cost went down, and that's because as we're establishing ourselves into that space and we're going through the renewals every year from a workers' comp, or not workers' comp, MMRMA liability standpoint, we're adjusting that down. Previously, it was a little bit out of whack on how they were breaking things up to cost allocate that bill across the departments. And every year we're taking a closer look at, those individual ones and making sure we're charging accordingly to those different funds. So that's part of the reason for that as well. We believe that, you know, based on the activity we have so far, which is for the year, plus about a 10% increase in liability, that's where we're going to be. I don't have that final number from MMRMA yet, so I'm just anticipating 10%. Last year it was 8%. And so, you know, things just continue to rise. Going down into legal fees, that number typically stays pretty flat for Coastal and Husky, so we're not worried about big increases there. Wages, now that's gonna be the one where you're gonna probably pull from if there's issues. And like I said at the beginning, unfortunately, we have a real hard time staying fully staffed in that department. So that's typically where the savings comes in from the bottom line overall is wages and benefits, because we are short-staffed up there. So that's where you're typically gonna pull from if you're trying to knit things, going to be the wages and benefits and retirement lines.
And wages, does that include overtime too?
No, so 702 is always wages, 723 is always overtime for all funds. So when you get down to the 723, that's where you're gonna see the overtime. And you'll see that we have overshot overtime already, and that's, I mean, we're down how many people?
As of right now, I have 6 dispatchers. With one maybe leaving in the near future. I'm not quite sure yet. We've had that conversation, so I might even be down 1 more.
And what is fully staffed?
9. And so being understaffed, we have a lot more overtime. We're already over the overtime budget right now, but it's not, we have to have people there. So we have to allow the overtime, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on
How you look at it?
how you look at it.
Have we ever been fully staffed?
Not in my 5 years, but I haven't been here
Since
that long.
I've been here.
Rebecca, have we ever been fully staffed? We were close at one time. So the big change that you're gonna see as we move through the expenses here, you're gonna see 2 retirement lines. You're gonna see retirement county share DC, retirement county share DB. This is a big change for all the funds that have people since the previous year. Kelly, Leslie, and I went through a pretty deep dive into the actuarial and the DB divisions, and then also the defined contributions. As you know, you close the defined benefit, and all new hires after a certain date are defined contribution, and that county commitment is much less than those defined benefit groups. Some of those defined benefit groups are pretty big. So in the past, what was happening is they were being budgeted simply just based on what the header of that division was. So we have 14 is EMS. They were all being budgeted in 210. And then Division 10 was Sheriff's Office. They were just all going into the general fund. Well, we went into the weeds on that to see actually what people are in those divisions. And what we learned is that sometimes a dispatch person was under the sheriff's office, and sometimes a corrections officer was under the sheriff's office because they were sheriff's office at the time and they weren't differentiated. And so what we did is we went through there and identified those employees and where they actually used to be. And then we took the payments and broke it up based on that, so that dispatch is truly paying for dispatch employees in that DB versus the general fund paying the whole thing or the jail paying the whole thing. The largest division is Sheriff's Office. That one has the lowest percentage funded, and it is by far the largest bill that you're getting is for the Sheriff's Office. But when you get into that, it's actually dispatchers, corrections officers, and Sheriff's Office. And so we did our best to allocate that accordingly so that the people who are, you know, used to be in dispatch, we're not paying their retirement out of the wrong fund. We're trying to be a little more even across the board on that. Now, when I say Sheriff's Office, there's many divisions that are Sheriff's Office. You all have the actuarial. I'm specifically focusing on those hired before 2011. Those are the biggest, that's the biggest dollar amount that we're paying towards MERS. So we just tried to make it a little more fair and equitable across the board for all the funds. And so that's why you'll see here, the DB is quite high. Now, the DC then came down because that commitment from the county is a lot smaller. And then all these new people that are coming in, they're on the DC plan. So as we continue into the future, you're going to see the DC raise and hopefully the DB eventually come down. But as you know, when you made that commitment, it was the long-term future where you're going to see most of those benefits. So it's going to be a while yet. But we're trying to break it out for you so you can see specifically the trend on where DC is going and where DB is going, is the hope. So that's why it's broke out now and it looks so different. In the past, retirement was only under the 724. We've now made that DC, and 724.01 will be the DB payment and all the funds. You'll see though, we weren't budgeting accordingly because it was just based on that, you know, overarching title. And when we got into the weeds on it, actually about 4 times as much should have been coming out of the dispatch fund all along from a retirement standpoint. So if you look at it from face value, the general fund has been supporting dispatch much longer than we're talking about.
So Leslie, I'm glad that you're getting that cleaned up because I think that gives us a better picture long-term.
It does.
And based on our original calculations, Katie, it could be another 13, 14 years before we really start to see that switch.
I think so. And the other thing we've learned too from MERS is that when the actuarial says 100% funded, they don't count that as 100% funded until it's 120, 110% funded. They won't count it as fully funded until it's about 110% funded. Because we were talking to them about moving around that overfunded status. They don't actually consider that funded until it's about 110%. It's very interesting. I want to know if we're going to get a check back at the end of the day because they're all 110% funded.
Yeah, they don't do that.
Keep dreaming. One can dream for the county.
Let's ask Tony.
Yes, you could ask Tony. But then going down, you know, things we tightened up as much as we could on all of these, took hard looks at, you know, the maintenance contracts and the other contracts to make sure were we overshooting it or were we rounding up too far because we were trying to be safe. And we're trying to tighten this as much as we can because we know the budget is quite tight. And so that's why you'll see here, it's not as big of an increase as it could be. And it's probably not as big of an increase as some of the other funds. And that's because we've really, really tightened it down to make sure that we're covering the bare minimum, but there's really no fluff in this instance. The other thing going for us too is we've replaced a lot of radio equipment over the last 12 to 18 months. So then of course, as we go into the future, some years it's a little cheaper because there's not so many things to replace in that given year. Any questions on that?
What about rent? We used to have an expense allocated, now we don't.
That's because they can't afford to. So the general fund's been covering rent now for a while.
So that's just been an allocation.
Correct.
There questions or comments?
The rent you're talking about, did that go to the sheriff's department or?
No, it came to the general fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But because their budget will not support it, the general fund has absorbed that dollar.
It seems like we've really identified a significant problem with the funding of 911, and this has been talked about for years. Are we aware of any legislation or anybody in our game changers who have written any bills that could perhaps change how we do this?
Rachel?
Not that I'm aware of. Not right now.
Okay.
I know there's a push right now to reclassify 911 dispatchers as like a first responder instead of clerical. And by doing that, hopefully it'll open some other doors for dispatch centers nationwide later on.
Okay. So it's not even like an expansion of the $3 surcharge that needs to be fixed. It's just a whole different system,
Really
way to
is.
bill based on phone services that needs to be figured out. So I'm wondering if this is something MAC and some sort of their platforms needs to take up and advocate for the counties.
Is on their platform.
It is.
At least on the judicial and public safety platform.
It is. Okay.
I put it there.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it gets talked about, but then it gets dropped a lot. I can think it gets brought up, like Tim will bring it up and I'll talk about it, but then by next year they forgot about it again. You know, a lot of dispatch centers across the state are authorities, so they can do their own taxing, or they're just simply supported by the general fund. We're one of the few that just only focus on a surcharge, and I think that's why we're in this weird predicament, is because we don't have them as part of the general fund. We don't have an authority, so we have our own taxing entity. We're just focusing on that surcharge, and that's why we get in this pinch.
And as we know, we have to help ourselves
100%.
sometimes before we
Yeah.
think about the bigger picture. So we should be bending some ears of people who advocate for us.
But until that happens, this is another talking point when you're talking to the community about the general operating millage reset, we need to support central dispatch. Everybody wants the call picked up when they call 911, period. And so we have to pay people to do that. We have to pay for the technology so that we can locate you when you call. So this is another talking point when you're in the community of, listen, this service is a crucial service and we can barely budget for it because there's not enough money.
This is the entry point to public safety.
100%.
Oh,
It
definitely.
all starts right there.
So let me ask while you have the podium, when you're looking for candidates for these positions that we can't seem to fill, what's the ideal person? What kind of skill sets are you looking for? I just want to give you a minute or two, just in case folks see this video to know there are jobs out there, right?
There are.
Yeah.
So what we look for with a candidate, somebody who can stay calm under pressure, is when you pick up that 911 line, you have zero idea what it's going to be. You can't think about it. You just take the information and you know what to do, and you dispatch your fire, police, or EMS, whatever that citizen needs at that moment. But you just have to have the ability to remain extremely calm.
Is there a certain level of qualifications you want someone coming through the door with, or do you do the training?
We
site?
do training in-house.
Okay.
There's state requirements, so we'd have to send them out for some state required training at some point, which we have timelines for those ones,
Mhm.
but most of the training's done in-house. So if we have somebody with a clean background who's willing and ready, that has the ability to speak to people, especially, in a moment of crisis, people call us on their worst day. And you get yelled at, you get screamed at, you get the people, I don't know, just get them here. Okay, well, what is the problem? Like, we need to know who is that. So just having the people who can communicate very well.
Thank you.
And this is a position that is, really is entry level. This is a high school diploma who maybe I'm not sure, I don't want to go to college. I'm not sure what I want to do. Dispatch will train you. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree or, what have you. So this is a really, cool career path for somebody who's maybe young in their career. They think they want to do law enforcement, but I don't want to be a cop, right?
Sure.
And so this is a really cool career path for those young folks that are really trying to figure it out. They don't want to go to college per se. They can come
Full-time,
here, we'll train you.
year-round, great benefits.
100%. Yep.
And I do want to say, I stand corrected. I said 9 positions. We actually only have.
Oh.
I stand corrected on that. I don't know why I thought 9, but
8 position plus a director, or
deputy director, yep.
so there is 9.
There's 10.
Technically 10,
Oh.
if you count the 2 admin positions, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Seeing how you brought this up, that thing that we did with the young folks, the sheriff's office. They
The
brought in
academy?
The
here.
academy.
Yep.
Academy. Yeah.
I was invited to teach them for an hour, show them about
Nice.
dispatch. We have an AI program that simulates a real call during an emergency, and it interacts with whatever you say to it. So I brought that in. A couple of those kids were able to take a fake 911 call. And then during a more quieter moment, we did bring them into dispatch just to kind of see, and then had to take them out because calls were coming in.
Good. I just think it's a great opportunity for them to, maybe this is something I want to do. Who knows?
Definitely.
But everything helps.
Frankfurt
you.
High School invited us as well earlier this year.
Oh, good.
And it was basically, I think, a senior level class, maybe junior, but it was, hey, these are first responders. It was sheriff's office, dispatch, and corrections, where you don't necessarily need a degree. You can come in, like, we'll train you. Here's what the training looks like. And so I think we got some interest with some high schoolers over at Frankfurt as well.
Could be people with mobility issues to be a good fit for them too.
Correct. You don't have to stand or really lift the whole lot. You can sit.
Katie, going back to the budget, we've identified at least one risk, and that's on the revenue side. Is there anything else in here that we should be aware of that's a real risk?
Just your wages and benefits. I mean, risk in the sense of we may continue to be not fully staffed, and you're going to see that overtime line potentially tick up, because if we cannot fill those positions, those folks up there are working. The deputy director and the director do fill in also, and so it's not that they're not filling in, they do fill in too. But when you run a 24/7 operation on just a handful of people, it incurs a lot of overtime.
Well, the overtime is only a portion of it. As far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned, you potentially have burnout, you'll lose employees.
Yes.
There's more than just the financial consequences to this.
It's a real problem.
Any other questions or comments?
And 261.
Can I ask about going back to the local surcharge? I'll expose my ignorance on this. Who decides what that is? I pull up my cell phone bill, I got my $3 local surcharge, and I assume everybody else in the county does too. Who makes that decision that it's $3 and not $4 or whatever else?
So the statute gives you a maximum and you decide each year.
Okay, so
Maximum's $3.
Since I've been here, we've levied
it's always,
maximum.
it's always.
Isn't the
okay.
original one voted on by the community?
Don't remember, I wasn't here.
Okay. I was just curious because to me that seems like an easy way if
Or
there's,
no, it is voted on every so many years.
Yeah. I
okay.
think that's how it started.
Okay.
$3 has been the max,
The
correct?
$3 is the max. The voters will levy, they'll approve an up to amount, and then each year you have the discretion to set that number. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's no more on 261. Rachel also has another fund, which is the training fund. That is that's money given by the state. So this is gonna be yellow paper with a green table. It's gonna say MCOL's training at the top, 2353, but her training is 259.
Okay.
So yellow with green,
259.
you know, so dispatch training is 259. So these dollars come from the state,
Hold
so
on a
they're,
second,
oh,
Kim.
sorry,
Which spreadsheet does that start?
253.
Let's make sure everybody gets there. Gary?
I got it. I found this one.
Good job, Gary.
Not even
Go
a
ahead, Katie.
dang squirrel gets in.
So 259 dispatch training fund, these are dollars from the state for the training of dispatchers. There's a lot of continuing ed that's required for dispatchers. And so the state helps supplement that like they do with MCOLs as well for the law enforcement side of it. And so we're told we're going to receive about $8,000, 8,000 to be exact. So then we budget that much for training, and that is training specifically for the dispatchers. So that one's usually pretty consistent. Some years when there's more or less, we then use that fund balance in the following year to do additional training. So you'll see here, we had budgeted 8,000, but we're up to 94. We're pulling from fund balance usually 9 times out of 10 because the prior year we didn't spend as much. The prior year we only did 4,000 in training. And so we pulled those extra dollars to, keep those going. Those dollars have to be in their own fund per statute. And they're specifically for dispatch training only.
State doesn't claw that back if you don't use it all 1 year.
They haven't.
Just ask.
So,
From my understanding, they may lessen it in the following years if you don't use that
Give
money.
you
Yeah.
less.
any additional questions on the training piece of it? Otherwise, that's it for Rachel, unless you have more questions for her.
We appreciate you pinch hitting, Rachel.
All right, last but not least, Tom King, EMS, that's going to be 210. And that is going to be on. It's going to be white paper and a purple top row
Got it.
and a purple table. 210.
Can I see that again, please?
It's caught in the other one. Okay.
Guess it's purple. Maybe it's plum. Magenta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still trying to figure out what the hell magenta is.
Gary, I really love that you bring the comedy to all our meetings.
It's a white one, she said.
It is white, yep.
I don't know, the two of us couldn't find that last one.
I know, do I have to find it?
No. Solid, put this one, hopefully. Yeah.
It's deck here.
Let me see, we'll pull this over.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yes.
Okay, part of the water.
Yeah, I found what the agenda is, yeah. Thank you.
Bless America. Anyways, so going into 210, so this is going to incorporate a few things that are new and above and beyond the normal. As you know, we've acquired the old Benzonia Township Hall, which will be the new EMS station. So there are expenses accounted for within here to do some of those upgrades and remodels to that space, as well as there is an accounting for a deputy director position. Tom is here to talk through that request to the Board of Commissioners for that position specifically. So starting in at the top, budgeted use of fund balance. We're budgeting the use of fund balance for those one-time expenditures to remodel that space. And this was expected. We knew that when we bought a space, we were going to have to remodel it a bit. And that is part of the reason for the uptick in the millage a couple of years ago, was so we had those dollars aside to be able to do those renovations. So about $134,000. Now you may think the remodel is going to be more than that. That's just what was needed to balance the budget, because the revenues, of course, accounted for everything before we put in for that additional to redo that space. The current property tax, we're anticipating to receive about $1.7 million for taxes for the EMS millage specifically. Looking at ambulance fees, we did put in $1.1 million for that. Based on the activity to date, we may even exceed that specifically. And we'll monitor that as we get a little closer to when you're adopting the budget. If we need to uptick that number, we definitely will.
But
Going,
we leave that piece. Is that what we actually collect, or is that what we bill?
that's what we collect. That's revenue that comes back to us.
Okay.
You'll see a couple of years ago, there was a huge uptick in it. There was an audit done by the third-party agency, and we had hit it pretty hard that year to get rid of some of those older debts that hadn't been collected. That's why there was such an uptick in the 24-25, was because of an audit. So down to the bottom of it, so the estimated revenues are just over $3 million.
Katie, let me back up. This will apply to everything we're talking about. Do you know what interest rate we're budgeting for interest on deposits?
I believe Kelly told me she was doing 3%. She's not here, so I can't verify with her, but by next week she'll be here and we can verify it. But I do believe we talked about 3%.
I do have a question.
Please,
And
fire away.
And, you know, I just don't know. So I'm noticing some of these, there are, payments in lieu of taxes as part of revenues. What determines which things get those?
So when it comes to the PILT specifically, it depends. It'll depend. And same with swampland tax. Some of those dollars are coming from the state, some are coming from the feds specifically. And we get told how much those payments are going to be. That's what we get. PILT payments have not been adjusted at the higher level in quite some time. So those dollars continue to stay the same or even go down a little bit. So that's where that comes into play. So commercial forest, this is all part of that tax process that Kelly and Michael work through when they're determining those sorts of, allowances for those things.
As an example, Gateway Village, you know where that's at? Next to the Shell station in Frankfurt Departments.
Yes.
They're on payment in lieu of tax.
Okay. And so those
It's just
go,
specifically spelled out.
okay. And so those go specifically to like an EMS, but I noticed like, animal control had some, I thought had some PILT as well.
Get some.
Well, that's because it's the same PILT across the board. And when Kelly looks at it, so a payment in lieu of tax, she's using an allocation to split it up between the funds. The majority of it is going to the general fund because that's the largest one. But she's using an allocation for those. Or say there was a tax refund for some reason, there's an allocation to determine how much each fund gets for that allocation if there is a refund of some sort. PILTs are kind of the same thing. There's an established payment in lieu of taxes, and then there's an allocation on how much goes to EMS, how much goes to animal control, how much goes to general fund. That's why they're kind of all over the board and they're pretty small.
Okay, okay. And then what about the PPT? Because I noticed some have PPT and some don't. Is there any rhyme or reason to that?
That's going to be a Kelly question.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
So we'll
Yep.
save that for next week
you got
because
it.
she'll be back.
Okay.
That you brought it up, Graceland's build is done. Is
Yes.
that what I'm looking at?
Mm-hmm. That's
There was another
that's
one
my
there.
understanding.
Federal bill too. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we still have those line items if they're not being used?
So the system will not let us remove those lines until it's so many years without history. And so when I look here, I'm seeing more years than you're seeing here. And so the system is by default pulling those because I'm still looking at history that far back. Once it's been so many years and out of, then we can start getting rid of those. And we never get rid of them. We just mark them inactive and then they stop appearing, but they're always in the history. But the system is a little bit limiting in the sense for that.
That's a standard accounting practice.
Yeah.
It's not unique to us.
So we'll mark them inactive here probably pretty soon because they're getting to be no activity for a period of time. But the other issue too with the system is, and Art, you and I talked about this yesterday, was every fund has a 265 department. Every fund has, certain departments and certain accounts. So if I mark it inactive in EMS, but maybe it still needs to be active in the general fund, well, that could cause some issue with it as well. Because when you mark a department or an account inactive, you're marking it inactive for the system, not necessarily just for the fund. And so that could cause issues as well.
So it says federal government, are we basically talking the National Park Service
Where are we at?
and the federal government PILT?
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause that seems like an awful lot of land, Benton County land that doesn't
Well,
generate any revenue.
Yeah, Kelly can explain this
Sure.
this better
Understand.
because there's years that she gets it and then years that she doesn't get it. We just say thanks when we receive it because the feds will just give us what they think we deserve a lot of times.
That's been part of our argument regarding state and federal land.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's
Especially the
very
property
arbitrary.
tax.
It hasn't been much change to it.
It depends
Mhm.
on who the
Katie,
admin officer
is it possible also that
I
she
get
just
it.
hasn't allocated some of, we could see that in another department, there may be an allocation.
Yeah.
In this department, there's not.
That is correct.
Have we budgeted for no, we're exempt from property taxes on the new building.
Mhm.
Okay, we have water bills there, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
All right.
thought about that.
Right.
Well,
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So, going into the appropriations, buildings and grounds specifically, this is where you're gonna see a lot of uptick in the budget, and that's because, well, we have a third, full-time station now. There's additional supplies needed, additional grounds maintenance needed, building repairs, electric, all those things. And so this you're seeing uptick, because of the new station specifically, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that will become Station 1, correct?
Correct.
Yes, so this Benzonia Township will be considered Station 1.
And when we agreed to make that acquisition, we anticipated all of this.
We did, and that's why you'll recall a couple of years ago why we upticked the millage and the community supported that uptick in the millage. That was to plan for a third station. That was to plan for a third car, those sorts of things. And so we did that strategically a couple of years ago so that we could set some of those dollars aside. So then we knew when we could buy a building, when we could renovate the building, and then support the additional staff and equipment it took for that building. So we were thinking about that a couple of years ago when we increased that millage request to the community and they supported it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tom's gonna have an office over here and not be in here.
Yep, he's moving up the hill.
Oh, stays here.
Yeah, I feel like closets.
That was all part of the design,
Yep,
Thank
because
you.
we have space needs here too.
correct.
And this kind of explains itself, but I think it's worth saying publicly. if you look at line item 967, project expenses garage, you want to explain? Goes
That's-
from 597 to 100,000.
Oh, I can explain that, Tom.
Yeah.
So that is because we have that's because we have the purchase of the building factored into that specifically. And so it's very high right now because we purchased that building. That was under that project expense to purchase that building. And then the dollars for next year are considering the upgrades to that building. So that's why it's much less, because we don't anticipate putting in what we paid for that building by any means. Really, it's, pretty turnkey. It's turnkey for a day car. It's turnkey to have, the ambulances there. The renovations are going to be, the common spaces, a kitchen area, those sorts of things for the staff that are going to be there. But that includes the acquisition of the property, that's why it's so high in the activity for this year. Any other questions on that?
Under building and grounds, because we're going to move into wages, et cetera, in a
Correct.
moment.
Okay. So moving on into wages, EMS is a little unique in the sense that they have two sets of wages, two sets of health insurance. And that's because there's two departments. There's an EMT department and there's a paramedic department. So that's why you see the first one, 651, that's specific to EMTs. And we have taken the approach to hire more ENTs and then try to grow them from within. It's not easy to find paramedics in the world right now. And so you see that upticked a bit because the wages are higher now because we have more EMTs than we had in the past. So that's why that's upticked a bit specifically, is to account for more EMTs. Now the goal is to grow them and create paramedics. But for now, what we're doing is we're getting them in here on that first step and then trying to grow it from within, because you can't find paramedics very easily. Down overtime, we upticked a little bit as well, because we just undershot last year.
Katie, let's talk about that for a moment. So we're adding another EMS station. Wouldn't that reduce the need for overtime?
If you're adding more personnel,
Yeah, if we, were to say we're gonna bring on, say, 4 or 5 new full-time personnel, then that would, but then you also had the caveat to what comes with full-time personnel. There is some built-in overtime, but then you have higher benefits and insurances and healthcare expenses. The interim or the beginning stages of bringing on this new station was to use as many part-time people as possible to help alleviate the overtime. But there will be, to staff that 24/7, there will be some overtime from full-timers. As something that's unique, it can vary from year to year. Last year, I had people screaming for our part-timers, hey, I can't get shifts, full-timers, I can't get any overtime, because with the same number of people we have right now, everybody had lots of availability and was wanting to work. For this summer, it's almost reversed. Still have the same number of people, the same people, but part-timers are working less and some of the full-timers are not wanting as much overtime. Bizarre. Don't know why that is. I think that's quite unique, but it just shows some variances from year to year. Just to continue on, over time, we will add on some additional full-time personnel, but that's not going to be all at once. It's not going to be in 1 or 2 or 3 years, but it'll be slowly but surely we'll add on a position until we've leveled out and we're able to staff that third station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
we're celebrating the nation's 250th.
What?
That's why they're not working as much.
Oh.
There you go.
What are you talking-
What's it's a union contract. What's the rate increase this coming year?
3%.
3%.
The other thing to keep in mind with EMS that's very different from the others is contractually they get guaranteed overtime because they work 96. So they get 80 at straight and 16 at overtime no matter what, because that's the contract language for full-time people. We undershot overtime here. That's part of the reason for the increase, is because we did undershoot.
Take a moment to explain that to us, because these folks, do they get overtime once they've worked 40 hours? or once they've exceeded 8 hours for the day, the shift, how does overtime work?
40 hours a week.
So they could work 3 12s and not ever get into overtime.
Well, they
Correct.
work
But
24.
Their shifts are 2 24-hour shifts a week. They work 48 hours a week.
I see. So there's overtime built right in.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
so their contract says that they will always get 80 straight and 16 OT if they're a full-time employee.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and they work typically 2 24s, so they're always getting that 16 overtime. Interesting, right?
Well, probably not unusual.
No, it's not.
Fairly standard, yes. There's some fire department exclusions that run a little bit differently, but that's specific to fire departments.
So then moving down just a few lines, now you'll see Department 655, that's the paramedics. So we have more paramedics than we do EMTs, but like I said, we are trying to hire on more EMTs and build from within. And so you'll see here in the notes, when it comes to wages, footnotes, request for a deputy director position, wage to be determined, additional wages for part-timers because of the new station. So that is factored into there. And I guess, Tom, I'll let you go over with the board, the request for a deputy director position.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back in time just a little bit. If we go back before me, when Craig Johnson was the director, so we're gonna go back, what, 9, maybe 10 years. There was the director, he had hired Jim Henderson as I don't think his title was the deputy director, but we'll just say deputy director. And then they also had a part-time office secretary. When Craig left and Jim Henderson was stepped into that role as the director, he did not fill his vacated position. Within a few months, Trina left as the part-time office secretary. That position was never filled. So when Jim moved on to greener pastures, and then I was able to come in and take over that role, neither of those positions were ever filled. They're there in history, but it's been for the last 8 years a one-man show. We've grown from running about 1,500 calls a year to responding to 2,600 calls a year, and that's going to continue to grow as our communities grow. People keep moving into the area. Our transfer volumes are increasing overall. I mean, summer, yes, it's obviously always been busy, always will be busy. But 8 years ago, I would say we would average 2 or 3 calls in a 24-hour period into the winter months. If we had a heavy winter and Crystal Mountain was busy, it might be up. But now it's not unusual to run 6 or 7 calls in January and February. March and April are our slowest months of the year, and we're still pulling six or 7 calls in a 24-hour period. Now it's not unusual to exceed 12 or more calls, 14, 15 calls in a 24-hour period in the summer.
Not to interrupt you, but for the benefit of whoever might want to listen to this, it's also, our growth is 60 plus. So it's
Correct.
not just that we've grown, but the people that are growing our population are in greater likely to have need.
Exactly. Yes. So we are not growing in younger generations. We're growing in the populace. That's going to get kind of toward that. But the population that we see growing up here generally are those who have retired and are needing ambulances more and more frequently. So that steady increase will always continue to decline. And we are now at that threshold where we need to bring back some of these positions that were not filled 8 years ago and start filling those again, because eventually you're going to have more ambulances on the road to take care of these people appropriately, and so on and so forth. More educational needs are going to be out there, and having another individual below me to help with some of these administrative needs is quite important.
Does our employee roster still carry those two?
Well, Tom just said that it never had a deputy on the roster.
Right.
They were just acting in that capacity.
Well, Jim Henderson, when he came on, was specifically hired on I don't know, he may have been assistant manager to the director. I mean, that could have been his title.
What they called.
I don't remember what his title was. He was not in that for very long, because Craig Johnson left the director for that, and Jim was moved into that spot.
Well, then going back to Gary's question, is that already on the roster?
It's
Because
not.
your note says it's not.
Yeah, I think because it's been vacated for over 8 years, it's just been removed.
Right.
That position, could you get some benefit out of just having an administrative assistant versus having to pay the wages for a deputy?
No, I think it's important because things that I need to have a deputy director work on that are going to help increase revenues and increase our training capacity. I'm going to need someone that's in a position that actually has some administrative authority.
How do they increase revenues, Tom? Help me understand that.
So over the last year with our billing audit, previous year, I believe it was this past, it was a June to June and 1 year period, we had increased billing collections by 13%. And identifying other areas where we can work on helping to streamline some of our processes, decrease our time on task when it comes to billing and collections. It's going to help increase our revenues as well. And my expectation is over the next 5 years to work very hard at increasing our collections, what we collect through billing, by another at least 5 to 8%. And what that means is, the caveat is differences in billing. Forever, it was Munson's billing department or Northlight Billing that handled our billing. When they did that, because they were Munson Medical Center, they had direct access to med records at Munson. Well, once they went away and all the people that utilized them had to hire their own third-party billing agency, none of those billing agencies can just log into Munson's med records and get copies of IDs and insurance information and all that stuff. So they have to send an invoice to the patients. The patients have to then either go online, upload their insurance information, their ID, so on and so forth, or get a hold of the insurance or our billing agency and give that information to them. Or they end up getting a hold of me and I end up having them come into my office. And this is a regular thing because we have, again, a population of people that really don't like using computers. So I try to help them with that. So they come in and then I can upload that information. The change we want to make is getting our staff to get all of that information on the front side. I don't have the time to oversee 2,600 calls of paramedics now having to get copies of driver's license, social security cards, insurance cards, and so forth. So those can be copied and uploaded and sent right to the billing department so they can bill quicker.
I've got other questions on this, but I wanted you guys to have the opportunity first.
Just want to make sure I'm remembering correctly. So you're doing your own billing in turn. Okay, we're contracting that out. I know we contract with
Yep.
somebody. I can't remember specifically if it's just for collections, for delinquent accounts, but that 13% increase is based on what?
Collections. It was a 13% increase.
And that's
just
the
in
company
collections.
we contract
Right.
with. Okay, okay. So I'm still wondering,
I think it's so confusing. Tom does not do the billing himself.
Correct.
He contracts the billing out, right?
and is that the same company that does the collections? They do the billing and the collections
Yeah.
for
so
current
they-
and delinquent accounts?
Delinquent accounts go to a company, a collection agency out of Cadillac. And off the top of my head, I can't remember who that is. Look it up. So after so many days or so long, if someone's not paid their bill, it goes into collections, just like any of our bills. If we don't pay a bill, it goes to a collection agency. It's the same type of collection agency that then, says, hey, you've been reported to collections, you owe X amount of dollars, blah, 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 calls on a payment plans, yada, 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 however that works. And then whatever they collect, they get a small percentage of whatever is collected after that, after it goes into collections.
Probably
Because-
not a small percentage, Tom.
Yeah.
Right.
They probably get anywhere between a third and a half.
Yeah. So the less we have going to collections, the better. So
And they probably are deemed for the collection agency 90-day plus, I would guess.
that sounds about right. Yeah. And you only have a slim, your window of even being able to bill is 12 months in most cases for healthcare. If you've not collected the revenue or bill after 12 months, You can no longer rebill or bill for that claim. So it has to be sent out. So one of the problems is when they send out a healthcare invoice to the client and your client is 90 years old and they don't know what it is, and their durable power of attorney doesn't live with them, and they throw that bill in the garbage, and then 2 months later they get another one, they don't know what it is, they throw it in the garbage, and then eventually somebody, and I just had this happen last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, where I had a gentleman call and say, hey, you guys transported my mom a few months ago and we never got an invoice. Well, after I talked to our billing agency, yes, they've sent invoices. They had been sent to collections. That's when he was able to find a collection notice sitting on his mother's dining room table for an ambulance bill. And he's like, I want to get this taken care of. I just need to know why we never got a bill. Well, they had gotten a bill. That's not a one-off. Those types of things happen. So we want to mitigate some of that by making it shift. So this is a culture shift. That means I have to train my staff or get them up to speed on, they now have to get insurance information and identification up front. That's going to be a challenge. I can assure you that will be a challenge because it's something they have never had to do.
They have a hard time getting a driver's license that they request for, because Munson wants it.
Right.
This,
And that's just one area.
this may belong in a different meeting, but
Yeah.
with respect to the activity, do you know what percentage of your receivables are uncollectible?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that.
And there's a difference that you talked about 9 months. There is some standard for Medicare or Medicaid, the timeliness of when those get billed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is that the same time frame?
I think it's roughly a year.
Because that was part of the problem we were having before you're taking over management, is that they weren't being billed timely or billed at all.
There was a lot of issues back then. And that had to do with like reports just not being done.
I think in a different setting, it would be helpful for us to better understand the collection process. See if there's any opportunities to improve that. You're already looking at some.
Yes.
But it'd be curious to know, where are we starting from? Are we collecting 95% of them or 50% of them?
Right.
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah.
And so the request for additional staff is to take on this additional task?
Yeah, it would be an instructor coordinator can also handle certain education aspects as well as someone that's it's kind of a coordinator, assuming kind of a coordinator role, but to the next level of doing basically chart review, making sure everything is there and accurate. The quality of the charts are there and completed, which aids in billing. So if someone writes a crappy report, it's going to affect billing on the bottom line, right? Because you're not going to be able to bill for everything that you should be able to bill for based on what the EMT or paramedic put in their chart. Making sure all their paperwork that's submitted is completely filled out the way it needs to be so it can be submitted in a timely manner. If you have a transfer from Paul Oliver and the doctor didn't sign his name, that has to go back to Paul Oliver. The doctor has to sign his name. Date, you have to put a date of service. You have to print his credentials. There's a lot of things where insurance companies require. So whoever's reviewing all these needs to make sure, hey, we're doing this. Identify any individuals that may be repetitively missing certain things and educating and training them on how to do things appropriately the way they need to be. The important thing is to try to reduce the length of time it takes to get a claim billed.
Tom,
I hope that makes sense.
how many employees do you have?
31, including myself.
In my opinion, it's a span of control issue as well.
There is that as well. You have me and me overseeing 30 people.
So how much room do you have in your budget for this position? I see a power cot that doesn't have an amount in there. What's the wiggle room here?
Well, we've always maintained a 25 to 30% fund balance, so having the money to pay for this position is not an issue.
it's not
And
an
as well
issue.
as changes that are gonna take place over time to help also offset and increase our revenues. And it would be this, Kelly and I did have a conversation because I had some questioning about I think we had seeing 2 or 3% growth or interest accrued over the last year. And I had talked to a forensic accountant off the record, and he was surprised that that wasn't more 8 to 10%. Katie and I talked a little bit about that. It was like a bad year as well. Kelly and I did talk about that. And I would encourage the commissioners here to help her. She's openly said that she's going to get some training this fall to help her put funds in the right areas to help maximize the interest rates or revenues growth or whatever. I'm not a finance major.
Yeah, but you're talking about the difference between the market, investing in the market and interest.
Right.
And
So,
money market accounts.
and it's gonna
or
go up, it's
the
gonna go
higher-
down, right?
So a point of clarification, the COT is included in that cost. That blue row is highlighted because it's a footnote. And so you'll see that equipment is upticked because that includes a power cot. That's the note that.
Oh, that was the
Yeah, yeah,
note
so
for
it is
that.
budgeted.
Okay, all right. I just thought it was a line that was left empty. It's
Yeah.
like, what is?
Yeah.
Right, the footnotes are funny because they
Gotcha.
show
Okay,
footnotes
that's
funny,
helpful. Thank
and they're
you.
just tied to what's above it.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then when you have more EMTs and in the past, that's reflected in the wages above it.
Correct,
It's
yeah,
just that note. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
yeah. I just
It-
wanted to make sure you're
Yeah.
aware.
And let me throw this in here as well.
Oh, I see. Okay, yep. All right, sorry.
One of the
It's all making
reasons
sense now.
when we budgeted for the next ambulance that's coming probably next summer, we're not trading an ambulance. We have the station and we want a backup ambulance there. So we don't get much when we trade in used ambulances. But our maintenance costs have been stabilized and the longevity on our ambulances has improved. So we're going to, and I've talked to Matt Delzio, who does our vehicle maintenance. And we both agree that we're going to start budgeting out. Instead of buying an ambulance every other year, we're going to do every 3 years. So we're going to add another year in between there of purchasing ambulances. Now, let's say that doesn't work out. We have to go back to every 2 years, then that's fine. Then that's what we do. But on the interim, and I don't see a problem with this, having solid routine maintenance on ambulances increases your longevity and decreases your overall expenses on breakdowns and repairs. And you're not trying to fund buying 2, 3, or 4 ambulances all at once. So buying one every 3 years is going to help, and at the tune of, we'll just say roughly 250,000 right now. That's a considerable savings.
Any more questions?
If this individual you hire does not accomplish what you're saying he or she should accomplish, what's our alternative? I mean, if you say we're losing 15-20% and he's able to collect 2, that justifies that person's existence. What I'm looking at, I mean, I don't know what kind of criteria you set up for this.
Well, I think too, and I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry I had to step out too, and maybe this was talked about, but maybe it wasn't. This person isn't just about that piece of it, though. We really need a person who's helping to oversee the operations. We need a person who can, be in the field if there was an as needed thing. This person is going to have more of that work to be done as well that Tom can't currently do because there's such a large staff and such a large amount of dollars moving around with billing and taxes and such. So this person is much more than just overseeing the billing. There's operational needs needed as well and that thing. So we currently pay quite a few people coordinator stipends. I envision those coordinator stipends going away because you're hiring a person who's doing those. We pay somebody to order the materials. We pay somebody to manage social media and, that sort of thing. Those things are going away if we have a deputy director because those are deputy director roles that should be being covered.
Will there be a specific job description that will lay that out?
Correct. So we're gonna have to, if you approve the position, there's going to be a process of writing a job description and you guys approving that job description like we did with the animal control director and an officer. So there'll be a process that we have to go through to establish that position going forward, but it's more than just billing.
But just from what Tom said, there seems to be a major problem in collections as far as getting, and I see this going to other entities. Keep trying to take whatever they can from.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I don't want to bring that up now, but to me, this is spooky. If we can get it to work, it'd be great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, really have some questions.
Well, we need to better understand what portions of them are uncollectible now and how much of that can we improve on. But there's another complication to this from a management perspective. 32 employees, maybe not more than some industries can handle, but you have them in multiple locations, so that makes it more complicated also.
Mhm.
There is a threshold of how much direct reports a person can have, depending on the industry. I don't know enough about this. I see Tim kind of shaking his head like, yeah, we need to do something, but
I can tell you that the personality of emergency medical is hard to, let's just say, they need more attention sometimes than others. Just the personality. Having 31 report just one person in this industry is extremely.
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my conclusion too, but I don't know enough about it. But that's something you can budget, it stays within your revenue stream,
Mm-hmm.
so you
Yes.
can afford it. And we'll be talking about that in greater detail in a future meeting.
That is correct. So, what I'm hearing from you today are general rule of thumb moving forward. We're going to adjust things as we go. So this isn't, you make the decision today by any means.
And just curious, do you have somebody internally you're thinking about?
Oh, there's a couple people internally that I would be interested in.
Okay. And then you'd have to replace them.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, it's going to be helpful for me. One component is for the third time. I'd like to know what the opportunity is in collections.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions for Tom?
Give a lot to think about.
We'll be talking about that subject again.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
Appreciate the effort. We
So,
are at, we've been at this about an hour and 40 minutes. Anybody's teeth grinding yet?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we take 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. You're unmuted.
We're back in session at 12:20.
Alrighty. So the general fund is what we're looking at. That other hot pink one, Art, that's 507.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
and
that-
emergency management on it.
I don't know why that's popping up on there. It shouldn't be.
Okay, we can deal with that.
I'll
It's
look
right
at
here
my-
at the back. Pink. Yeah.
But that's the wrong one. I don't know why it's on that one. You want general fund hot pink, the thick one. I don't know why this I wonder.
Yeah.
It's
Not a
not right.
problem.
So general fund. So 101,426 is going to be what we're going over now. Now, as you know, the reports are a pain in the butt and they do all revenues first and then all expenditures later. So 101,426 is what Rebecca is going to be going over. Hi. Everybody there.
Mine's not too bad, so hopefully I don't hurt your brains and you can go back to the business. I did want to take my opportunity to mention a couple of things. One was a question that you presented to 911 about how can we increase revenue sources or whatever. Just from my 911 experience, yes, MAC should have a conversation with having some consistency with surcharge collections. Because that does happen at a, a higher level than local dispatch. And two, if there's ever an opportunity, the chair's brought it up a couple times and I know taxes suck, but like a bed tax where the money that like Traverse City or Grand Rapids gets for tourism isn't available to Benzie County, mostly because of our size. And I think the UP actually gets some because there's legislation, but legislation doesn't include Benzie County or other small communities like that. And then it only includes tourism. And if it would really reconsider opening it up to smaller communities and opening it up to public safety entities to include 911, Sheriff's Department, EMS, or, whatever the board decides to do, but just an overall emergency services instead of just tourism. I think that would help because we're not the only community that sees a large influx of population during the summer, during the tourism time that needs public safety services. And we're basing it on our 17.5 population, numbers. That's how we get some of our revenue. So they don't ever include our influx and the demand on our services. So that would be an opportunity where there was legislation in place where we could ask for it from visitors instead of taxpayers.
Definitely tone deaf.
There is a discussion taking place because it's already on the books. They just have to lower the threshold.
Yeah, there's has to do with tourism and it has to do with a bigger, like Grand Rapids. Every time to go to Grand Rapids, I get not only a county tax, but a room tax on my services, but we can't impose those up here. And I don't mean to tax people, but if visitors can take a brunt out of what the services they're increasing for us, that would help our local tax. So you had brought that up and I was like, oh, that other spot. So it's currently in legislation. So I would guess I would just keep talking to Mr. Roth about what he's got going on and if you needed a place to look. So I also want to take the moment while we're on my revenue lines to remind you that we've mentioned it a couple of times, but legislatively, I can be capped at 50% of FEMA resources for my budget under EMPG. And we get a whole whopping 7% now. So it's gone up from during COVID. I was getting 49.9% of my wages covered by grant money that was federal, mostly federal. And now because of things, we're down to 7%. So I've always been in the general fund bracket, but we were always able to offset that with some other funds that come in for purposes of my position. And those just seem to keep dwindling. So in order to maintain me, we have to just use general funds, local general funds. So we're not getting the revenue from that other source. And it's kind of going to be noted. You'll see it keeps going down every year. I hope it doesn't keep going down. We might have a surge where it might go up one year because we get some funding, but it hasn't been consistent. It's consistently gone down. So, unfortunately, in order to keep me on the books, and I please hope you do, I think a few community members hope you do too, because I've been helping out a lot of people lately. It ends up eating into the local general fund instead of the grant money I was able to come in to cover my wages. My stuff is pretty flat, so I really just wanted to take those two soapbox points and say, money keeps going down as far as how I can get it, and trust me, I try to get it any way possible. Because I have the time, I have the time, and I don't have so many people I have to supervise that I can kind of try to manage that the best I can. I did acquire a fleet vehicle from one of the leftover sheriff's office vehicles. That was supposed to offset maybe some mileage costs and be able to just.
Let me stop you just a second. We're talking about revenues, right?
Yes, sorry, I was done with revenue.
I want to make sure everybody's on that revenue section because you got further in the packet is the expenses.
Yeah.
Everybody there? Department 426, emergency management?
Yep.
You see how it's down to like $7,000 this year as opposed to
Okay, just want to
37.
make sure we had everybody
Yep.
there.
Sorry.
Yep.
Moving too fast.
Go ahead, please. Is
All right. Couple pages later, we're talking about my expenses.
that where we're headed?
Yes, sir. Again, 101,426. I guess, does anybody have any questions on my notes? And my footnotes again have to do with just a fleet vehicle. I used to have a little bit of money for gas oil. We try to use that fleet vehicle often. I actually share that with dispatch and the sheriff's department to be able to offset the mileage cost. So Katie says cost per mileage is actually more than just paying for gas. But we never used to have it before. So my budget was always based on gas for the Convan, and now we use it for gas for the extra Durango. And again, I share that with a couple different departments, and I think it saves the county a little bit of money on the long run, but it's easier if it just comes out of one section. So because it's assigned to me, we're just increasing the gas, plus gas has just gone up in general. So I already went through that budget really fast with a couple tanks of gas that I had previously.
But you doubled it, right? I'm looking at this correctly. It went from 400 to 800.
Mm-hmm.
Our payment in
I guess
lieu
you
is
have to.
300 a month?
Yeah. Don't have a choice.
I'm a family, or
Oh.
Craig does not get a payment in lieu.
Yes.
Only one of
double.
us does.
So it's under hers, not his.
So, on overtime.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at it, I see it very little as
Yes, so
charged.
I don't get overtime. I'm salaried. However,
Okay,
the one day for Ironman pays me an overtime rate. And so I have a revenue line for Ironman, and that outgoing is put under overtime. So they actually pay me an overtime rate. Same with Tom and Corey.
Yep.
We charge them an overtime rate, even for our salary.
okay.
And that's through the contract that we have with Iron Man. So it's very unique to what we're doing, and that's to reimburse their 90 hours on that day for that event, that special event.
It feels like 90 hours. It's always at least 15.
Yeah. So it's very unique.
Yes. So that is in and out from Ironman. Otherwise I don't get overtime.
Okay.
That's why it's so small.
Your questions? While you're looking at it, project expenses, I think that's what that is. Yeah, what is that? $6,000?
That we pay for the Rave Mobile Safety.
Mhm.
Again, we get income from Crystal Mountain, City of Frankfurt, so mass notification, sorry.
Used to be.
So that's the out for mass notification.
Oh, I see.
It was 6,000. I think I pay one other subscription out of that, and I also get that money from LEP. I'd have to look at my revenue line again. HMEP.
HMP.
So HMEP and mass notification are the ins for that $6,000 going out.
And I see that we had budgeted $28,000 for this fiscal year. Did we create a different general ledger account?
Oh, we had a grant come in for a project.
Mhm.
So she adjusted that and put it in my projects line.
Remember the mapping?
That was the
grant?
mapping grant I got.
That was
Yeah,
it.
so that's a one-time adjustment to in and out for that grant money.
Gotcha.
Didn't we make a significant effort to put something in the county disaster?
Yeah,
That
that,
doesn't show up here. That's under committed fund balance. So it's not within 101,426.
yeah.
That is, if you actually go back to the first page,
Okay.
we'd start looking at the different fund balances and such.
That's the 100.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want that in my budget line. That's just allocated if really
Okay.
bad things hit
Yeah.
the fan, you
It's
can
actually
say
not
that
on
you've
the-
already,
Right,
That's
so it
right
only
there.
shows up in your budget if we use it.
yeah, if you say, hey, I need you to spend
Gotcha.
this.
And it's actually not on these spreadsheets, but what Kelly and I did is, you'll see in old budgets, it just says fund balance and budgeted use of fund balance. Now we have a committed fund balance too, and that's where that's at.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah, you would still vote on, you know, what it's being spent on and moving forward and then
Mhm.
putting it in a line.
Hmm.
So yes, really just came down to, gas, oil, grease, increase because it's just the way everything's going.
It does look like a decrease though, because of the retirement and how we changed the DB versus the DC and where we're putting that now. So hers from a department standpoint does look less. That's because the DB for the general fund is coming out of central services because it involves almost the entire or almost the entire general fund of what's left. That's now coming out of central services, which is 101,233. So it's not showing under hers anymore because it's under central services. And it'll be similar to for all the other departments within the general fund coming out of central services now. And then the DC is the active retirement within each department.
Well, and your project expenses are $22,000 less.
But the overall bottom line looks less.
Yes, if I ever just have a special project, that's usually where I ask Katie to put it, so it make, when we do a budget amendment, just so I can pay that bill, and that's just what happened there. Consistency, it's gonna be just those two items that I'm constantly paying out of that line, the mass notification and it's a tier 2 manager that is funded by a grant as well, the HME grant.
We already know for certain that you're only gonna get 8% from the state or federal government.
I think that's their projection. It's really hard because of just where they throw their budget line. I'm always projecting from last year into first year type of thing, so I can't, there is absolutely no way I can tell what they are gonna do for 26, 20, 27, 28, whatever we're
But
at.
that would just be an opportunity if that happened. They increased it.
Hope it doesn't go down anymore.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it went up. Just from a local taxpayer standpoint.
Pre-COVID, what did they, you know?
When I first started here, we were relatively in that 30%
Oh,
range. That's what I was told to budget when I started, and we can go way back into that Frank time, but I was really told to budget about 30% of my wages as being covered by EMPG, and now we're at 7.
because I seem to remember Frank, I thought almost as much as 50% of his wages were being.
50% is the cap by legislation that they're allowed, or that we can act, you know, that we're gonna be given. It's always been a little bit less. Everything depends on the fair share for all of the counties. Who's gonna participate? When I was part-time EM, part-time 911, I could only get 30% of the
50%.
of the half of the EM wages. So again, but then we changed to full-time, so that takes more out of the state version, because, you know, so everybody is different. If you have a deputy director for emergency management and they qualify, then all of a sudden it increases it somewhere else in the state. Like Montmorency County never had one, now they do. So again, the percentage is always variable based on what money is available and how they split it for all the counties.
Dollar amounts fixed and distributions the variable.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Rebecca?
New folks with my line items, they're pretty simple, but no questions. I know it says county disaster 2,000 or $200, but trust me,
Yes.
there's more set aside if we should need it. I'll briefly talk tomorrow about where our status is at FEMA, and
Yes, I see good news in the paper.
Yeah, we'll take money.
We'll cover that tomorrow. Thank you.
Mhm.
What's the next subject?
Jen's house.
Did you fix it?
That's it.
Glenn applied, he should have got a check for $790 yet.
No.
Check your mail.
What's the next one?
We're gonna stick with the general fund.
I
Okay, so keep this in front of us.
Yep. So we're gonna
We
stick
did
with
it
the
together,
general
didn't we?
fund, which is the one you're on.
Did I send you that? Okay.
We'll catch after. So, going back to just the first page, let's do that.
First page.
Yep, we'll just go back to the top. So looking at the general fund, you will see the budgeted use of fund balance. We are using fund balance to balance the budget, but that's really committed dollars from previous commitments. So Crystal Lake Outlet Project, Conservation District, EDC, those are projects that are previously approved, or they're grant dollars that had come in and we haven't expended them all. So now we're reallocating those dollars for those projects. So about $179,000 of fund balance is budgeted, and that balances the budget overall. Now, the budget did grow a little bit. So we went up to $10.1 million overall. Now, it doesn't look like it grew, and that's because of the movement of the fund balance this fiscal year when you committed everything. That shows up in the activity. So it makes it look like it's a little different, but it's really not.
We're
We
still
did-
on the first page,
Yep.
right?
So going down the first page, this is all your revenues. So 101 is the Board of Commissioners, and then you guys don't have any revenue, unfortunately. I know.
It's fine.
Moving into administrator, so fees, administrative fees. So every year we do that cost allocation plan with MGT that determine the administrative fees. I don't have that final report yet, so that's why I just put it at a straight 250 for now. Once I get that report, we'll have a more secure number in that spot.
Katie, before you move from that, in earlier discussions this morning, we talked about the fact that there are certain activities we're not assessing the fee to, but yet you have it flat from this current year.
That is because we didn't assess those administrative fees to those specific departments last year either.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I left it flat. Going into postage fees reimbursement. So this is the building department, Manistee County, MSU Extension. If they mail anything from our postage machine, they actually reimburse the county for their postage. It's a very small amount. We're really getting away from mailing. Even though our postage fees continue to rise, we are mailing less and less all the time. The next is reimbursements. And so you can see here two different things as to why the reimbursement is so high. One of them is going to be retiree healthcare. So folks who stay on the county's plan and pay the premium, they're reimbursing the county through that line, in addition to volunteer life. So folks can take volunteer benefits, and so it comes through that as well. They pay the county a reimbursement for their portion of it. And then the next one is a grant. So working with Carhu Cyber and Michigan State Police, we were able to obtain a grant of over $100,000 2 years ago to reimburse the county for cybersecurity enhancements. The payment of that is actually finally coming now in this next fiscal year. So they're that far behind in Lansing for that grant. We hadn't budgeted for it before because we knew it was going to be a long time before we saw it anyways. So this is the first time we're budgeting for it. We will actually see just over $100,000 coming back to us for the cybersecurity enhancements and technology enhancements that we've been making. So that's why that's budgeted there as a reimbursement. Moving down, refunds and rebates. So that's the MMRMA claims. And so when a claim is processed with the MMRMA, typically what'll happen is Benzie County cuts the check to Honor Collision or Hodges or whoever it is. And then MMRMA sends us the what we're entitled to, and we put that into there. Moving on down into the clerk's office. So you can see here, and Tammy can go further into depth if you guys have questions, but your typical typical fees for permits and marriage licenses and death certificates and those sorts of things. Pretty flat for the most part, a little bit raised in some, a little bit lowered in others, but nothing too out of the ordinary from Tammy's perspective.
Billing
What about spelling?
for certified.
Certified spelled wrong?
Recording, copying, and sure.
Oh, that's a note that'll disappear.
Okay.
It's not part of the ledger itself. So on to the next page, we're gonna go into the county treasurer's revenues. So this is where the bulk of the general fund's revenues come in because the treasurer is the tax collector for the county. So that's where you're gonna see really the majority of the revenues are under 101,253. So current real property tax, that is the final levy of the general operating millage, as it stands now. Next year would be the result of the August election. That would be next year's levy. So this is under the current rolled back amount. That's the anticipated revenue to come into Benzie County. Now we're going down the line here. Things are fairly flat, or they are flat. The one that upticks a tiny bit is swampland tax. That number is given to us. So that is the number that was given to us as far as a swampland tax reimbursement. It's a $5,000 increase. Continuing down the line, medical or recreational marijuana excise. That one, as you know, is a little bit of a crapshoot every year because that is a state average based on the number of establishments within Benzie County. There was a couple of years when we received quite a bit more money because we had multiple establishments and the numbers were up in the state. Right now at the state level, with all the conversation happening around marijuana and taxes related to that, things are kind of in a weird spot right now. We don't know where they're going to pan out specifically. So that's the number that we placed in there.
Well, Katie, with respect to the increase in marijuana tax,
Yeah.
that actually goes, that's what you're showing here is collected from the retailer.
Mm-hmm.
That increased tax is actually on the wholesaler. So that wouldn't be an opportunity here anyway.
But we are factored in by the number of establishments we have in our county, and that will be reduced because the fourth one has not been active.
Right.
Unless the people just walk across the street and buy from the other dispensary.
Well,
We had 4 and we're down to 3
yeah.
in Benzonia Township.
Oh, it's not based on sales.
No.
No.
Well, it's
Well, it's state sales,
statewide average sales,
but then
and
your
it's
portion comes-
based on the number.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
So that's gonna be
And
a
if the
quarter off.
wholesaler is higher tax, then the end user is probably gonna, it's all a little bit of a weirdness right now until they figure out what they're doing at the state level.
That's why it's a crapshoot.
Correct.
They're all stoned.
Oh, Gary.
You should make it sound like it's a bad time.
Benzonia Township.
Well, I didn't see it. Well,
It
I'm
runs
sorry, go
like
ahead, please.
Yeah.
So going down the list a little bit further, core equity as well as conventional liquor tax. Again, these are numbers that are given to us from the state level. A lot of them are from the state level. You will see here state shared revenue sharing that is down. We were projected to receive 447 for this fiscal year. We're only at 362, so we're hoping more comes in. Next year, we're back to 430 as a projected state revenue sharing. So this is another one of the conversations we've had about the state continuing to dwindle down what they're giving us, which is then strapping our taxpayers that much more.
Can we go back up a couple lines, the liquor tax?
Yep.
Which we haven't realized, but about a third of that. Do you expect more coming in?
Yeah.
Okay.
The payments on that sometimes are not on like a consistent timeline. Yeah.
Katie,
Last I heard, they haven't reversed them yet.
Right. So
Okay,
they
but they're
have-
going to.
We
They're
canceled
supposed
the
to.
last sub meeting because state didn't disperse the money.
Right.
Who's
So
got the
they've
checkbook?
collected it, but they've not dispersed it. Then
yeah, so the liquor tax, so I totally understand this. Are we talking bars and stores that sell liquor all rolled into one? Are they separate? Because there's 2 businesses in Colfax County. One's the Laughing Horse, the other one's the store that just lost their liquor license the other day. So
The party stores even, anything that sells, any
anything else?
alcohol.
Any alcohol establishment.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so the last payment we received from the state was June for liquor tax. So, wait, where did I leave off? All right,
let me ask that question just a little differently because it could affect us.
okay.
Is that final payment or is it likely to be in this fiscal year or could that end up being in next fiscal year?
So typically what has happened with the state is it'll be this fiscal year, but we could receive it on 10/15 and we have to date it back to 9/30.
Okay.
That's what happens. The state they may take their time for the first, 9 months of the fiscal year, and then they'll make a mad dash at the end, and we'll receive a ton of payments that last 20 days of the fiscal year and the first 20 days of the next. Everything gets dated back though to 9/30. It's an interesting one. So coming down to transfer in from the DTRF, that $100,000 is typically pretty standard from administrative. We, as a committee, the chair, the vice chair, myself, and Kelly met to talk about, is there additional surplus in the DTRF? And as a consensus, we're going to hold off on continuing that conversation and determining if there's a surplus at a later time. Because if there's not a need, we would leave the dollars there specifically. So we're leaving that as it is. Let's see here, transfer in.
But that will come to the full board for discussion.
Yes, it will. Transfer in, so that's where we've been transferring in. Typically, it's the opioid dollars into drug court. Those dollars come into the general fund that are allocated to the drug court program that you allocate to. But then if there's any other miscellaneous transfer into the general fund from another fund that's not spelled out above here, we'll transfer it in through that line. We don't anticipate anything at this point. And then the transfer in 532 foreclosure fund, we haven't transferred in over the last couple of years from that fund specifically.
Could be significant this year. There is a home that the intent was never filed on. So we'll see what happens, but the auction is August 27th.
Yeah. So typically what we do is we leave it in that fund, so it's segregated in that fund and it grows. And then if we need it into the general fund, we'll make that transfer at that time. Yep. So then moving on down out of the treasurer's office revenues, we're into equalization. Theirs is pretty minimal. So it's really printing sales. So if folks want one of the very large maps of the county or, some sort of GIS map, we charge for those. And so that goes in there. And as you can see, it's a pretty small amount of dollars. Then we're going into elections. Tammy can cover this in a little bit more detail. That's really based on the number of elections that we have and how much the state's going to reimburse us for those given elections.
Katie, how come the printing sales for the organization was 10,000 this year?
Let me look up the activity and let me tell you.
A lot of maps.
Fairly.
It actually, that might be. Oh, so that was because from the looks of it, somebody requested the entire county. So it's a big dollar amount. So when you just request a map, it's anywhere from like $50 to $100. But if you request the entire county of the database, it's in the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Typically, those are larger companies who are requesting that data. So the printing sales include not only just the printing of the map, but of the database as well, the specific piece of that. And so we had twice where people requested a big old number of parcels. One of them was our entire database. The other one was a list of parcels that equaled out to be $3,600.
I'm going to drift with you just for a second, but at another time, if you can disclose to me who did that, I want to make sure that that wasn't an opportunity for the EDC to explore. Somebody's looking at our community for some reason. Not to be answered today.
Oh, I can. Of course, yeah, we can talk about that at another time.
Sure.
It's not an EDC thing.
It doesn't say. So moving on down. Like I said, elections, Tammy can go in a little bit more detail if you'd like. Moving on down to buildings and grounds, which is 265, and that's 265 department across all funds for buildings and grounds. But this is general fund specific. You will see dollars in there, and that's other rent revenue. And those are dollars that are coming in from DHHS as well as the building department for the space. So that's what other rent revenue is. You will see that there's no longer a cell phone line. The prior maintenance person had a cell phone from the county. The current one does not. That's why it's blank. And that's at his request. Moving in to circuit court. These are revenues for the circuit court. So you'll see here the drug court specifically. We're actually expected to have a little uptick in the drug court grant for next year. So we're kind of excited about that. And then moving on to the judge's salary refund. This is for the circuit judge. This is Judge Thompson. We get a portion of the refund from the state because we are a 60-40 split of the court. So you see there, we'll get about 18.8 as far as a refund goes. And then the rest of these are a lot of court fines that are part of here, jury reimbursement, appeals court, those sorts of things. Those are all court fines that we're looking at. Any questions on that circuit court revenue piece of things? Moving into district court, 101,286. Again, these are going to be court fees for the most part. The difference with this salary refund though is we get it all because Judge Meade serves Benzie County. And so you see there, the anticipated reimbursement right now is flat from the state. They haven't told us what they're going to reimburse for next year, so we kept it flat with this year. It never goes down in the last 5 years. It always goes up. So we kept it flat for now. We don't know the percentage. I know that there was some sort of agreement with the judges and SCAO at one point that they'd get 5% every year for so many years. I don't know the last year of that. We haven't gotten that report yet from the state. We'll put a more defined number in there when we get that number. Continuing down again, these are court fees that are related to the courts. In a perfect world, those numbers would be small because that means court is not busy.
You're turning to the next page.
Yep.
Before you do that, all court fees is going from 70,000 to 95,000.
Yep. So that is going that way because what is happening is we used to break out a lot of fees in the past and we had a line, we had all these one-off lines for this fee, and this fee. Now we're just putting them all together versus having all these individual lines for the fees.
Is there any disadvantage to us in approving the budget by collapsing those line items?
I'm not aware of any. Moving on into friend of the court, 289, 101, 289. State grants and mediation fees. This is a pretty small amount here. This is the number that is given to us by the friend of the court for those services. You can see here that, as far as the overall fund goes, a lot of it's coming from the state and then the court costs. So it's more court fees that are being paid. Prosecuting attorney's office. So their biggest grant revenue source is the victim advocate. As you know, that position is mostly covered by a grant. And they have let us know for next year, it's going to be 35,000 and some change. So it is down a little bit from the previous year, but still relatively flat for that one, which has been great. They haven't decreased that one like they have emergency management. Then continuing down, state grant, that's also for Title VI-E and OWI fees, and then any refunds for extradition. If there was an extradition that happens, typically that fee is then assessed to that individual, and that's the potential refund to come. Sheriff's office. So we're going into the sheriff's office now. Liquor licenses, they do those inspections as well. Now into state shared revenue. So this, I think we talked about this not too long ago about the state shared revenue that was specific to law enforcement and how some of the townships were getting those funds as well. So that's where we're putting that. The Lansing says we have to show it separate from our normal revenue sharing. That's a requirement of those dollars. So that's why the sheriff's office has their own state shared revenue line now, because those dollars have to show separate from the general revenue sharing. And then continuing down, things are pretty well the same or down or up. Things are.
Just one quick question.
Yeah.
Reimbursement for the health officer, is that gonna change with Chip retiring? Or is there a contract?
We have a contract for that. Yeah. So it would only change if we actually talked about that with them and then went through that process,
So-
but there's a contract.
There is actually an application to the Michigan Health Endowment Fund to increase that program. So they're going to be increasing it, not reducing it.
Okay.
They're expanding it. City of Manistee already has one. Central Wellness is gonna be the fiduciary, but they're also gonna expand it to Grand Traverse County and Antrim counties.
But that was a commitment in perpetuity. I mean, that did not have an end date on it, did it?
State does that too.
The agreement initially was for 3 years with auto renewal.
Yeah.
Auto renewal.
Mhm.
So the intent right now is to keep that.
Keep it going.
Good.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yep. So that's that reimbursement there. Going on to the next page. Medical marijuana OP oversight grant. I don't know why that's there. That shouldn't be there. Secondary road patrol, as you know, secondary road patrol, part of that position is also refunded through the state. So that's where that is specifically about $52,000. It doesn't cover the entire service, but it covers a pretty good amount of it. More than half. Zero tolerance, that's the bailiffs. So as you know, we have 3 part-time bailiffs. This is the revenue for that. So they actually perform breathalyzers. So if you're ever suspicious, I'm gonna line you up.
Right here.
We already went through 101-426 with Rebecca, so we'll skip over that. Drain commissioner does not have any revenues, so we're skipping over that. The medical examiner, so some of these revenues, so it's interesting in our relationship with Manistee, we pay them for court, but then they pay us for certain elements related to the medical examiner. I don't know why, it's just how the relationship was created before I got here. And so they do reimburse us for cremation review fees here at Benzie County. Moving on to the
Do we
juvenile.
Do that by invoice with them, is that it?
Let me see. I don't remember.
I only asked the question because you're not quite certain the flow of money. And so I was wondering if we invoice them or they just send us checks.
Tammy, you receive those dollars. We don't invoice them. They just pay us.
They're paid when when the, like Jawet's the funeral home, they'll tell us how many death certificates they want. And if there's cremation, they automatically pay the $40 cremation fee at the same time. It doesn't get invoiced, it's just part of the filing of it.
Gotcha.
So moving on to 662, that's the juvenile division. And so you'll see here, this is mostly refunds and payments to Manistee County for that. And as you know, we have a 60-40 split. Their numbers are derived from an MGT analysis as well. So MGT is who we use for cost allocation. They also use MGT for the courts to establish the fees and fines assessed by the courts too. Go too far? Oh, so MSU extension, they have nothing budgeted for revenue. Moving into the Register of Deeds revenue. So this is also another fairly large revenue source to the general fund, not large in the sense of millions, but it is, exceeds a couple $100,000 for the real estate transfer tax. Rhonda, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, MSU Extension, don't they charge for their sports?
As far as
Like they charge for their soccer programs, they charge for their 4-H programs, they charge for their cooking classes, that would be revenue.
That doesn't come to us.
Yeah, it probably goes directly to them.
Yeah, that doesn't come to us.
Okay.
So back to the Register of Deeds. So Register of Deeds does bring in quite a bit of revenue, about $400,000 for the general fund, which is much larger than most others. So real estate transfer tax, recording fees, access to Laredo, which is their digital system for folks to see those documents, and then also passport fees as well. So that's the general fund's revenue for Register of Deeds. The passport stipend, that is one you look at every single year. Your mindset over the last 5 years has been if the revenue exceeds the dollar stipend being paid to those folks, you don't foresee taking that dollar stipend away. It's not a contractual dollar stipend. And as of now, it's still fully covering that stipend. The revenue is.
It's not a mandated service.
It's not a mandated service. That is correct.
Oh, but it's nice. I know people in the community really appreciate coming here instead of.
Well, Grand Traverse is not doing it anymore.
Ooh.
Is my understanding.
Oh.
So a lot more people are coming out here to Benzie.
Well, the thing of it is I think, it's, yeah, people don't want to go to Traverse City and then people don't want to, travel to, Manistee to the post office.
Yeah, it's a long drive. So a lot of
You
people
can
come
do
in.
them online, renewals
Well,
and stuff.
only renewals, yeah.
I mean, it's not, you don't have to go for every one.
Yeah, I think last I read, Grand Traverse isn't doing the pictures or even the processing anymore. No.
And it did a big, the state said we could no longer do birth certificates and passports in the same office. So we could not do passports any longer in the clerk's office. Happened throughout the whole state. So if another office would take it on, like the Register of Deeds did here.
Nice.
Did that make sense to you? Why they wanted that separation?
It did in some ways, and I think not so much here, but they were, I think, finding that people that were issuing birth certificates falsely for people to get passports. It was to separate that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Interesting.
To help eliminate the chance of, okay, you're issuing them a birth certificate and now you're turning around and saying you're proving them for a passport.
Okay. Okay.
All in the
One
same
more check and balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in Grand Traverse, the clerk's office had retained taking the photos. And then the treasurer was actually doing passports in Traverse, but that's no more.
I know this is the Paula's area, but could we refuse anybody that's outside of Benzie County making that request?
I don't know if you can or not. I think you have to be an all or nothing. Yeah,
That's an interesting question, though.
right. But yeah, I'm not really sure if you can. My guess is you probably can't. Yeah. All right, so moving on down to Parks and Recreation. This appears that they're making money, but it's really grants. So you have the DNR grant that we were approved for by the state. We've only received, we haven't received any of those grant dollars yet. Part of that grant was a match also for that grant. We've received some of those dollars already. And so why you're seeing such a large budget for Parks and Rec is because they plan to do the Crystal Lake Outlet project this year. And that's all the revenue towards that. We have paid some of that out already and we've used the match dollars to pay towards that. Yep, and they will actually be at next meeting to go over their request specifically. Because as you know, there's this whole maintenance element also going along with that related to the railroad point piece of it. So they'll be at the next meeting. Now we're into appropriations. That's all the revenue for the general.
Before you can move on, contributions and donations.
Mhm.
So it doesn't look like we received anything this year, but they think that they are gonna get 150 next year?
Well, so the Grand Traverse Regional Bank Service has committed
Oh,
to those dollars. We just haven't invoiced for those dollars yet because we hadn't had a need to. We're gonna make sure we'll end up invoicing for the rest of those dollars next fiscal year. So that's it for revenue, $10,157,401. Moving on into appropriation. So again, back to you for the first one, 101. So as you know, the wages of the commission don't change typically unless you're changing them as part of the new election. And so that's staying flat. Payment in lieu of insurances and
There
medical.
was an increase that we put in a little bit every year for a while. Can't. No, I thought we did that originally back when the last opportunity we had before this last election was a percentage.
I don't remember that.
I'm not even sure you could.
You
Yeah.
could ahead of time. You just can't do it during. You have to do
Yeah.
it before the next election, and I thought we did.
Kind of matched what we did with unions and the.
Wasn't a heck of
Remember
a
that.
lot.
Would have been the same as last year though then, right? Because that was, because it looks like,
Would have been before the last election.
yes. And so last year I was here. So we didn't do it during my term. It would have had to have been before that,
Before you got on the board.
before I got on the board.
So
So
you
last
think
year,
we included the commissioners in the percentage raises?
I don't know that it was that high, but there was a percentage raise
There
that we
was.
did.
Some kind of formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't remember exactly.
We did.
Mm,
Oh,
Look back.
The
through
old fart
minutes.
can remember some
But
stuff.
from this year to last year would be flat if you can only do it before the election,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but what he's saying is at the last time that we voted on it, we had put in a formula
I'm trying to.
that increased it every year.
Oh,
To match what we did for the unions and the other.
Yeah, I don't
employees
know
of
if it
the-
was a full amount.
oh.
See if I can find the minutes on that.
But don't be
Yeah.
spending it yet, but just,
Like $5 a month.
all right, it could be $5.
I should, Katie, you can research that at a later date, can't you?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Because you're gonna have to go back and look at those minutes from the organizational meeting. That's where you're gonna find them.
Correct.
It would have been before that, been before the end of the term.
Right, right.
I'm not sure which meeting that would have
Probably
been.
either November or December, right?
No, no, it
We
had
could've-
before the election.
No, no, it
Maybe
didn't
before
have
the
to be
election.
before the election. It had to be before the new commissioners.
Right, it had to be
took off.
before January 1.
Yeah,
It could have been any time in there.
We typically have had that discussion in November.
I am vaguely remembering that now.
Yes.
There were three things that happened.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cause there was a
Increase
per
the-
diem increase, there was a salary
Yeah.
adjustment, and then there was also, yeah.
Tammy, we'll have to look together because I'm at quick glance, I'm not getting anything in my email popping
Okay.
up. I'm guessing it's in the minutes if it is.
Yeah, I can kind of remember that.
Call Evan, he'd remember.
Well, and we did factor in the increases at one time.
So the last time we visited this would be what? A year ago, last November or December? Or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
So we'd either want to look at October, November, or December's minutes.
I guess it's probably so.
Got it, Tammy?
You got it?
No, I'm
Oh.
saying you got it.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
We're gonna look together.
Thank you.
No, it's right now. He's thinking that we approved an increase later on. I don't think you can after the first one, but I'll look. So moving into the payment in lieu of insurances and medical, dental, vision, those are as such as folks either fall off, go on to Medicare or so forth. That's what causes those different changes specifically. Going into the EAP. So the EAP program, that specifically comes out of the Board of Commissioners for the county.
What's the EAP?
Employee Assistance Program, that's the free counseling. Moving on down to per diems, we did increase per diems because we're falling short there. And then moving into the retirement county share DC. So this one looks really wonky and I'm sure all of you are like, what the heck? So one, the reason that it's so big for the activity now, that is the action that you took to commit those fund balance to MERS. So we put it into the commissioner's line and then that's where we made the payment from. So that's why it looks so huge because that's where those dollars went into to make those payments. And then now, as you remember, DC is staying within the department, DB is going to central services, and we're going to get to that when we get to 233. Oops. Turning the page. Everything else is pretty normal. You know, there's minor increases for work comp and MMRMA. We did up travel because that continues to rise and we're falling short on that for travel. Dues and registrations. This question is asked every year. Why are we budgeting so much money and we've only spent $1,200? That's because the MMRMA and MAC dues come out at the end of the fiscal year. And so that's why there's almost no activity right now, is because we haven't received those bills, but we anticipate those bills for those memberships. Moving on into 172. So I'm going to save the discussion regarding a FOIA coordinator for next time, because this is a dual discussion with the sheriff's office as well. Between our office and the sheriff's office, we handle FOIA. And so this is kind of a 3-part discussion versus just myself. So I'll save that discussion for next week when Greg and the sheriff are here to talk about that specifically. As far as wages go, though, this does not include a FOIA coordinator within those wages. That's just my note, so we don't forget to talk about it. moving on down into medical, dental, vision, same as the others. So we have the increase that we're factoring in. Getting down now into retirement, you'll see here, this is DC again. You'll see the activity is quite high. That is because we had a DB employee move into my office, so that payment followed her, but it's now moving to 233 as a whole. Everything else is the same or decreased quite a bit. So that's that one. The under contracted services, that's the grant project, the MOOG grant or the marijuana grant that we apply for each year. And then the health department actually carries out the functions of that grant, and that funnels through administration. And then the conservation district project, we anticipate a little bit the left of that project coming out of next fiscal year based on how the billing is coming through now for that project. And that also funnels through our office. Still in 172, there's no cell phones. We don't have cell phones in our office anymore. Travel, we decreased because we're not, I as a just a general, I don't charge for travel if I'm traveling within the county. It's just not what I do, and I've never done it. And then we were lucky in the sense of our conferences are all in the region. And so it's just, that's the nature, and it's going to be again for this fall. Right. Yeah.
Katie, before you leave that, just put this out there. You and I had this conversation. I think you need to be charging mileage.
No.
And I understand why you don't. You've talked to me at length about that. I'm just telling you that if you're using your vehicle for county business, just like I want to get reimbursed, you should be getting reimbursed.
I know.
Everyone sitting at this table gets paid to drive from their home to here for the meetings, from their home to the townships, etc.
Yeah, I wish you wouldn't charge for it. Or if you did.
Okay. Moving down into printing and publishing. Part of that is the newspaper is just charging a lot more for printing and publishing. Tammy actually just published something recently. It was over $1,000 for the publish. And
For
so
elections.
we upticked that.
Each election.
Yeah, so we upticked that because of the increase in general from the newspaper specifically. But then, so this includes any job postings that maybe we're publishing, any committee things that we're publishing when we're saying, hey, we have vacancies. So that's typically what we're charging there for printing and publishing. But then also the budget at a glance, that's a printing that we charge out of there as well. And those costs are going up. And so that's why we've increased that a little bit.
We get any reimbursement for the election stuff?
Yes.
It just depends. Sometimes it's the state, sometimes it's from the locals. There's some items that are required that the county pays for, which are the ballots. Unless it's a special election, then I can charge it all back to whoever's
Seems
putting
like
on the special, so.
quite a jump.
Well,
Yeah,
but that would show up under the county
Yeah,
clerk.
that would show up
That'd
under
be under
her.
mine.
These are for mine, but they've just went up across the board for all of us to publish. It's, and we're required to publish certain things in the newspaper. And so it's just one of those, another, cost that we can't control. Trainings in schools, that one is an uptick because what we did is we factored in some money for an education reimbursement if we get that request.
So it does that all get billed to administration, or does that get billed to the department that the employee works in?
So, that's up for discussion because in my head, we should have an HR line, right? Because that's kind of a human resource function when you're looking at that. So that's why it's under here because administration is human resources. That's up for discussion if you want to put it somewhere else, either under central services, maybe. Yeah, that's up for discussion.
Is it utilized a lot?
No, we just put it in place.
Yeah.
Right, but we would have to know soon because it needs to be approved prior to the school year. There was a whole policy
There's a
thing.
whole policy, yeah. So this is that what if situation. So if we did get one, it's not an automatic no per se.
Well, and we're not going to solve this today, but could we leave it here, but do transfers when they occur so that we
Yes.
can actually see what department's getting the benefit from that?
Yes, you could do budget adjustments to move it around.
that might be a way to manage it.
Okay.
I don't act on that until the board gives you direction.
Yeah, that's just there. Moving into the clerk's office, so it's gonna be the same, rhythm as our office, the 3% wage increase, medical, dental, vision, those sorts of things. Tammy, for the overtime specifically, she's thinking about courts and election. Her folks are here late on election night. And then also the retirement, same situation there. Tammy's office, there's only 2 people left on the DB, the rest are on the DC, so that's why the change in number.
Katie?
Yeah.
I think the overtime needed to be switched to 1,000. I have it in the footnotes, 1,000. This
Okay.
is 5,000 above it.
Didn't
That was-
touch it,
That was
Tammy.
Yeah, you've
Okay.
never spent the 5,000.
No,
yeah, we never quite got there. Now that Kim is salary, that
yeah, so you switched it.
You give compensating time off for election work.
Leslie's
Yep,
making that
yearly
change on the
anyway.
fly.
no, they get paid, and me and Kim just do it out of the kindness of our heart
Is your salary.
because we're salary.
Yep,
But she never sleeps.
same, buddy.
That brings up an interesting question, though. At the township levels, clerks are getting paid an additional fee for elections now.
They are.
Just another unfunded mandate for counties. Unfortunate, isn't it? All right, so continuing down the list, things really are just staying the same.
Well,
Yeah.
wait, before we leave that, are you making a change there then from 5,000?
Yep, so she made it on the fly.
Okay, okay.
Down to 1,000.
Yep. So increase in office supplies just a titch, and that's because the cost of the ink is going up again. So we're thinking about those costs specifically. Things from there are the same. Tammy likes to leave a lot of notes, so that kind of explains all the different lines to you. So that's helpful for you as well. That is helpful. Yes.
That's so I can remember
Thank
next
you.
year when I do the budget, but I did.
That's smart thinking.
Yeah.
So insurance and bonds, this is our liabilities, MMRMA specifically. So this one's a little wonky. 2 years ago, we,
Where are you at right now?
the bottom of that page, insurance and bonds, Department 222.
Yeah, before you leave that, I notice here under equipment,
Yeah.
you make a note there. Are any of those really capital expenses?
Tammy? Tammy, that's your notes.
I
Like, for instance, you're saying a desk and table.
think they were on the capital list. The scanners were not, because that's what we're just finding out from, when we go to my file, which we're being told that soon, those scanners are over $1,000 a piece.
One
But-
desk is $6,000?
No, we had, there should be a shredder in there too, but we've had that on there. I just have not gotten it.
But going back to my question, does this really belong on the capital budget?
No,
Is it
our
based on
policy,
dollars?
yes, our policy indicates that it has to be over 5,000 for it to be capital.
And it-
That's why it's not on there. So moving on to 101-222, this is the MMRMA. So the reason for the big change is a couple of reasons. So we did go from a 10-month to a 12-month now. You'll recall last year we worked with the MMRMA to get the cycle of MMRMA on our fiscal year. Used to be a January to December, which always threw us for a loop as far as budgeting goes because we didn't know. So now we're on our fiscal year, so our budgeting's a little more secure. The other thing too is you'll recall we had quite a bit of pending litigation at that time, so we really bubbled up that budgeted amount because we were anticipating some larger payouts. And luckily enough, our payouts were not that large. And so I've went ahead and lowered it because based on what our true cost of 231,000 is, adding on about 10%, that puts us at about 255. I should have that number though here any day, and I'll have a more permanent number in there once I get that. And knock on wood, we don't have any big pending payouts that we're considering. Thankfully. Moving on to 101-228, this is technology. This is a fairly new department, as you know. We are still working through trying to hire an IT support specialist. It's been an interesting one to work through, and we're getting there. We don't have anybody yet. Our fingers are crossed we find somebody soon. So what we've done is we have budgeted wages at that entry level position. Just moving through that process. We've budgeted a family for medical, dental, vision. That could change when we get somebody hired in, but that's just what we're budgeting for now. Moving down.
$21,000 a year for a family?
Yeah. Roughly. No, did you put a number in wrong?
A family's like 1,700 times 12. 20,000.
Okay.
17 something, yeah, 1783 is the family cost.
That is.
A lot bigger than I thought it was. It's a big number.
It is. So moving down the list here, we are anticipating, obviously, this person's going to be on the DC. So that retirement cost will be quite different. The person who was in that position before was a DB. So the cost was a lot higher. Moving on to the DC, it's a much smaller amount coming from the county, and that's why it's down quite a bit. Continuing down the list, everything really is, baked in. Our internet service, we know how much that's going to cost to Merit. So that's why it is what it is. Cell phone, if the person has a cell phone, this person is typically on call. So the prior person did have a cell phone specifically. Trainings in schools, we're anticipating maybe having to send this person to some additional training. So we want to give them that opportunity. Computer support, that is that. So that's going to be the cybersecurity services by Carhu, but then this is also other computer related support items. So that's paying for different things. Let me just pull up and give you the.
Is that a known number or best guess?
That's a best guess. So because that's paying for the Microsoft Office as well, in addition to the cybersecurity.
Significant increase.
It is. So as you know, it's all subscription, which is a real big bummer, but we can't control that. And so that's part of it. That really is the biggest bulk of it outside of Carhu Cyber is the actual cost for that. And then in addition is BSNA. Remember, we're moving to the cloud in August. And so there'll be an increase in that cost as well. That's why it's so much bigger.
And the treasurers
No, it's part of technology.
is part of them.
Yeah, technology is the technology for the general fund. Website support, we know that number that's coming from Revise, which is who we utilize. Equipment, $65,000. You'll see that's quite a decrease from the request last year. I have asked Carhu to go through the list from last year and anything else that's upcoming and give us a much better number. They thought 65 was ample. They're going to go through it though at a finer tooth and see if we can knock that down a little bit. I really stress to them. We don't want to just, not replace technology if it needs to be replaced, but we do have a really tight budget. So can you help me make those decisions?
So those are multiple purchases totaling 65,000.
Right. So this is, Leslie's laptop needs to be replaced or, someone else's laptop needs to be replaced or those sorts of things, new cords, a server potentially, which a server would come to you. But yes, so.
Where you jump. Public facing device, I need an explanation. What is that?
So a lot of folks go to equalization for documents for public records searches. As you know, we have one on the treasurer's office counter as well that they can look up old tax bills. They can look up some of Tammy's office stuff. This is to put one down in equalization. We have some of the equalization stuff also on that computer, but the trouble is there's a lot of questions then, and then they got to run downstairs to ask the question. Whereas if they could have the public facing computer within their department, it's a lot easier to answer those questions for the public when they're doing those searches. We used to have one. We had one down there all along. The prior director wanted to get away from that service to the public and it was disposed of. And Michael definitely wants to bring that back because that is a good service for the community.
It would offload some work too for the employees.
Yes,
And so that would be the same thing as a kiosk.
basically, yeah.
So, okay, this 65,000, is this part of a computer replacement plan that we have going on? Like every
Yes,
4
yeah.
years, we're ditching 12 computers and buying whatever, and
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
perfect, thank you.
All right. So central services, this is the big new one that we've keep leading to. You'll see here under central services 101-233 retirement county share DB, and it's $715,000. So that is the payment just from the general fund standpoint for general fund employees to the MERS DB, just for general fund. This number is also in other places. You saw it in EMS and 261, but this is the general fund portion of our annual payment for the defined benefit plan.
Is that the number that they've given us or the ones we've decided to use?
That's the number they've given us. That's the minimum we have to pay. Just for the general fund.
And to remind everybody, we've utilized some of the surplus, not surplus, but we've used additional money to catch people up to at least 60% per category, right?
Yes, so we've made those payments but we won't see that until the next actuarial.
Right.
Or two.
Well, and that. could
Or
change.
3.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's been done, yes. That's why you saw it under 101, where you saw that big dollar amount coming in. That's why you saw that. So moving down into central services, this is things that are more from a county standpoint versus just within a department. County office supplies, that's going to be Kleenexes, that's going to be pallets of paper, those sorts of things. Postage is postage. Postage is going up again. I don't.
I think it already did.
Yeah, or did. Yeah. So obviously we've upticked that. We really are sending out less though. I can promise you, we really are sending out less. It's just postage continues to rise. A lot of court documents have to be mailed, so we can't get away from that. But like our office, I think we mail something once every 3 months. Because we can email pretty much everything we do, but for court specifically, most of their stuff has to be snail mail. All right, telephone, that is the desk phones that are sitting on our desk. Medical insurance retirees, so this is where that expenditure is charged to for the retiree. You'll recall the reimbursement in my revenue, admin's revenue for that. This is then the payout of that. Equipment repair and equipment lease, so those are copiers and printers and those sorts of things. And then there's nothing in professional development. I'm not sure why that line's there.
Looks like we were at, for equipment lease, we were at 32, we went down to 21, and now we're back up to 32.
Yes, so let me go. Why did we up? Remember?
Katie, while you're looking it up. So we had set out at the beginning of the meeting that we'd be concluding at 1:30.
Yeah.
But we have these other pages to still go through.
It's up to you. We could stop now and pick up where we leave off next week.
Well, I'm gonna leave it up to the group what you want to do. I picked Terry, so let's keep going. Do you mind? So that we spend less time on next Tuesday? Does anybody object to that?
Gonna go to 2 o'clock or just whatever time we get done with these pages?
Well, I think the objective would be to work through these
Uh,
categories.
I can
Can we
be a
have a
little-
hard stop at 2? I
I'll
do
go
have
through it a
another
little
job to get
quicker.
to.
I do have another job to get to too.
Okay. I'll go through it a little quicker as well. So that was actually originally budgeted at 32,000. And then it was brought down to 21, of which I cannot explain why at this point without looking further into that. So I will get back to you on that
The
one.
activity in 24, 25 is only 21,000.
Right.
That could be why we weren't using it.
My guess is there was a payment that hadn't been made. And then it came. But we'll get back on that piece of it.
Okay.
Moving down, the treasurer's office is gonna be similar to all the rest. They don't really have anything out of the norm as far as wages, insurances, those sorts of things. They do pay for the auditors out of here, and so that right now is just there almost as a placeholder. We are actually accepting RFPs for an auditor right now. So there could be a chance that it's changing, and we'll have a better number once we get those RFPs, which will then be presented to you. Moving down the list.
I'm sorry. You were talking about that under wages,
No,
the audit? I'm
no,
sorry.
no, it's
where-
further down under wages. Keep going, next page. So you'll see here 101-253-800 contracted services auditor.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I
Uh,
missed that part.
No, that's okay. So moving down. Oh, whoops. Moving down, everything really is fairly flat. There's a little uptick in some of these things. Travel, or is that travel? Yeah, travel, she upticked to 5,000. I'm not sure why. But we'll have to ask Kelly when she's here. Moving into the equalization department, again, that one really is flat. It's just the 3 people down there. The different insurances are gonna be the
Hey, I
8%.
know we want to get through this, but is there any questions on that section of the treasurer before or are you wanting to wait till she gets back?
Some of these upticks she needs to explain.
Okay, move on, please.
Equalization really is flat, and moving on to the next page. He's even decreased some of those things even more. And so, for instance, dues and registration is down to 1,000. So that's a decrease. Trainings in schools, he just upticked a little bit because of an additional class he wants to send his staff to. Computer support, that is going to be related to GIS specifically. And then aerials is not this year. We already paid for that. So that's an every so many years payment. So that's why there's nothing budgeted for that specifically. Anything on equalization? Okay. Elections, that is Tammy's, and as you know, she leaves great notes, and this is specifically based on how many elections we could have. Moving down that page to buildings and grounds, this is usually a big budget, and that's because it's buildings and grounds, it's the cleaning, it's the department, people within the department specifically. You'll see here wages is a lot less, and that is because for a time period, we did have the maintenance coordinator from the jail also within the general fund, because that budget couldn't support that position. That budget can support that position, so we've moved it back out of the general fund because the general fund can't support that additional position right now. And so that's why the wages and such aren't less, is because it's only 1 person, not 2 people specifically. Next page. We did uptick gas, oil, and grease for the same reasons everyone else is upticking gas, oil, and grease. We've also upticked operational supplies because the cost of everything continues to rise. It's turning into a wild world out there. We do shop around as much as we can, but it's just the nature of the beast.
Can we go back to building and grounds? I think you might have flipped a page. I'm sorry, I'm still looking. The defined contribution, there's not an amount in.
Because the only person in there is on the defined benefit.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Glad you asked the question.
So the biggest changes for buildings and grounds is going to be the contracted services, and that's for cleaning. That's the big one.
Holy.
Yeah,
Carpet cleaner?
let me get down to it so I can tell you exactly.
We also have operational supplies too
So this is also the TKS as well. So this is cleaning and it's TKS. TKS is our security system. Again, everything's online and everything's a subscription now. And so that's why those costs continue to rise, because we pay monthly for a subscription for our security, as well as we're paying weekly for cleaning of the areas specifically. So those are the 2 big things coming out of there. It's crazy. The only other thing coming out of there is elevator. Let me see here. Everything else is pretty well.
Overall, there's a decrease apparently.
Yes. Electric is obviously going up. Emergency management, the tower is specific in buildings and grounds, but called out separately because we bill Frankfurt for a portion of that. So we keep it out separate. We also keep the gym out separate as well, so we can track the costs related to the gym.
How come electric is going up? Is that our actual billing we think is going that high?
Yes. So so when we look at the activity and how many months are left, we just do a basic math equation of the activity for 9 months. So we divide it by 9 times it by 12, and that's the number for the following year with a percentage added on.
Where is it that they're being billed separately? So do they,
What are you talking about?
for electric, building and grounds?
It's not, it's just right there. Electric.
Yeah, I know, I see that. I'm just curious, why do they have a separate electric bill?
Ooh,
Building and grounds.
that's for the whole campus.
Oh, okay, move on.
Okay. Any questions else on buildings and grounds?
Shouldn't that employee have a defined, if he's not in the defined contribution,
It's under central services.
it's under central services? Thank you. Just bugging.
101-266 is legal and contracted. So this really is Cole Stoker and Toski is the big one out of here. Administrative fees to Manistee, additional auditor payments, and MGT. Nothing really is changing there as of much.
Just,
We did increase the auditor a titch, and that's because we are out to RFP right now too.
We're gonna be redoing the legal contract?
Oh, we can.
No. I assume they're gonna ask for more eventually.
You would think, but they have not.
Let it go.
you talking about with our attorney?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a multi-year contract we had with them.
yeah. That just continually rolls over. So moving on into circuit court, does increase by about 30,000 for the department. Wages is the big thing there specifically. And then moving on down, the cost to Manistee, that again is a number established by Manistee for us specifically. Also coming out of here, we have transcripts, jury fees and such. So this is an interesting one. They do want to increase court-appointed attorneys. They're going to be allowing for higher costs for court-appointed attorneys. They're going to pay them more. So that's why there's such an increase there. And to be frank, this is what I'm told to budget. I don't really have an opportunity to say, but are you sure? Because I just am not given that opportunity during these conversations. So this is the budget as presented by the judge and his court administrator.
Doesn't look like they always use it anyway.
They never do. Moving on into district court, really going down here. Theirs is really not increasing. It's actually decreasing for district court. These are our ladies and gentlemen that are down the hallway. We went through this with a fine-tooth comb. There is a new administrator. There is a new magistrate. We went pretty close to it, and they felt comfortable ticking down some of the things that are budgeted for in the past. And so their budget is actually going down as a whole. Next is friend of the court. That's a reimbursement to Manistee, and that's the number we're told to pay. Moving on into 296, the prosecuting attorney's office. Again, pretty flat really as a whole here. The biggest change for theirs is the payment for the online software that they have. It's called Carpel. So Carpel is a system that the state said, here you go, prosecuting attorney's office, all of you please use this. And hey, we'll pay for it for a little while. And then this year they said, but we're not paying this year. So now all of our prosecutors across Michigan are onto this digital system, and now we have to pay for it on our own. So if we don't pay for it, we no longer have access to our records. And so that's the biggest change to hers. Otherwise, really, it is flat.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when we reconvene on Tuesday, can we, under circuit court where it says, please see explanation submitted in budget packet, can we see those notes?
Yeah, I can give 'em to you.
Okay, because, you know, and especially like under circuit court equipment, you know, they've spent 376 this year, but they're asking for 15,000. And it just says scanners, et cetera. So I need to understand why we're increasing these numbers.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I know it's.
Sorry, I know you're a couple pages ahead. I was listening. I was
But
just,
that is that's the system within there for the courts. So it's the BIS system. And that is the recording / streaming / system that's within the courtroom specifically, is why there's a big change, because we're redoing that system within the courtroom. But I will absolutely.
is that a
keep-
capital expense then, Russ?
That was yes and no. It's an interesting one.
Because I saw the remodel expense on the capital.
The remodel, that's to redo the courtroom, not to redo the digital system. That's just to reconfigure the courtroom. That's the remodel for the courtroom. That's new jury box. That's to reconfigure and, you know, new judge bench, that sort of thing. The BIS system, help me, Tammy, is like the recording.
It's the microphones, the recorders use that transcribe them. It's all the recording system, the polygram or polycom that they
Yeah.
have in there. It's all that coming in.
Yes.
It's all the electrical.
So it's a technology side of
It is.
things, not.
The speakers have to be a certain thing to pick up all the voices around the courtroom.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then it feeds into the ones
Well,
that.
it doesn't say, it says scanners, et cetera.
Let me see, hold on.
Budgeted, 19,000, but they only used 376.
Right.
Are they going to this digital system next year? Is circuit?
Well, my file is, but that's why I budgeted the scanners in mine.
So Karen didn't talk with you?
Well, I asked her and she said I had to budget them in my budget, so I
She
did. I don't know
budgeted
why
them
they
in
budgeted.
hers.
Don't know that.
We gotta ask her.
Yeah.
Because if she asked you to budget them, then she shouldn't have budgeted them.
The only thing I can think of is for her employees down there and we're sharing the cost.
Shouldn't be 30,000 for scanners though.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, because it'd be 15 for each.
And then the JIS related cost to Manistee, the amount request includes a 5% increase from the 25-26 requested amount, but there's no expense for this year,
No
but we're,
activity, yeah.
That's because we weren't charged the expense this year. The JIS system, every single year, we budget for it, and some years we're charged and some years we're not from the state.
okay, this one's causing me the longest pause and the explanation submitted in budget packet. Is that something you have?
I have a packet of information. I will be transparent. It's very hard to understand, but I will happily send it to you.
I think we need to see that. I mean, if that's an explanation that was included for these numbers, interpreter fees and a special judge, yeah.
The special judge would be if the judges were, say, ill and could not hold court, they would call in like a neighboring.
$834 and $670, but we're asking for 5,500.
Like I said, I've tried to question those before.
Well, I'm questioning as well.
Thank you. I will happily send you all that detail. So moving on to 101-301, which is the.
Before you move on, I had something under prosecutors. It seems to be a disproportionate increase on their their medical insurance. Goes from 52,000 to 68,000, and we had about a 7% increase.
Increased by 33.3%.
We put in 68 for some reason.
I'll take a closer look at that one. Computer died right at 1:30 and I'm not.
That's the time we were supposed to be done.
But I'll take a look and get back to you on that.
Okay,
Do you want to move into 301 or do you want, it's 1:45.
Okay, I'm wondering under prosecutor too, the overtime. Aren't they salaried positions?
No, not all of them.
Not all of them?
No, the office person and the domestic violence, the child victim advocate are not. You have two positions in there that are not salaried.
And we're anticipating $40,000 a piece for overtime?
Where are you, where are you seeing that?
Court. Oh, I meant.
I was
no.
saying, there's no overtime. for
Oh, no, I
prosecutors.
went down to sheriff. Sorry, I'm bouncing
Okay.
around here.
I was like,
I'm like,
and I don't see.
okay.
it for-
I saw prosecuting attorney above and dropped down. Okay, but we were in a different number.
Okay, I was like, did I really?
Going
have that?
haywire after 1:30.
Like, apparently we're all struggling now. Alrighty, so going into the sheriff's office,
Are we gonna discuss this wasn't this gonna be discussed?
yeah, we're gonna skip them.
Yeah.
Why not? So you're gonna actually flip 1, 2, 3. You're gonna go to the 4th page after that. So it's gonna be 101,442 Drain Commission. So his wage is $2,400 a year, so that's where it's left. We do budget, obviously, Medicare and such, because we have to. Work comp also, contracted services, $1,500, which was what we did last year as well. This is for the services. Lake Levels is actually pulled out separate as a contracted service. You'll see that too, $4,000 down there. I anticipate this budget being up for discussion, given the state of affairs that we're in at the moment.
What's the difference between contracted services? Oh,
That
contracted
Greg?
services insurance.
Oh.
No. Yeah, what's the difference between contracted services and lake level services?
So let me pull it up for you so I can give you the detail. So Lake Level is that. It is what is paid to Craig Dixon, specifically. And then the other one.
While Katie's looking for that, I remembered why that insurance went up for the prosecutors is because one of the staff members had a baby and now is on a different plan. So is now on the family plan. So that's an increase in that as well.
That is a big jump, isn't
That
it?
makes sense. Yeah, there's a big jump.
So, contracted services, there's been zero activity. That's been the requested amount, in that space each year.
Did Mike actually put that together?
That's what he did last year, and it was the same as this year. And I don't have any notes from him saying why. So I anticipate that later. We already went through the health department. We'll skip over that. So now we're on to 101,648, which is the medical examiner. Contracted service 30,000. That's what we pay to Manistee for her. Lab fees 15,000. Autopsies we did uptick. And again, like every other year I've said, this one's a little bit of a unknown. We just can't predict death.
How many deaths?
So,
Predict that.
but we did try our best to think forward. I will say that the equipment continues to rise. That is, those costs are contributed to the increase in the waste removal. Remember, we talked through that and how that went up, and that sort of thing. Gaylord has not increased his fees for what he charges for the space and so forth. These are fees that are gone up by outside agencies that we use, like medical waste and those sorts of things. Mental health, this is Central Wellness. That is the number that was given to me by them. It is 171,616. It is actually a decrease from last year. Juvenile division, this is again circuit court. And I have a printout for this one as well if you want it. And I'll just send all of them to you that I have for them. Again, these are the numbers laid out to us for the court specifically. Things are not really changing much. And so that is what it is. DHHS board, we left as is. This is their per diems and travel for that board. And then the human services appropriation. Last year, we decided on the appropriation and I'll leave it up to you for the appropriation again. That is the one you'll recall last year had quite a bit of conversation. Networks Northwest, this is 684 is intergovernmental. So Networks Northwest, that's for our partnership with that regional entity, the liquor tax. So we pay out a portion of those dollars that we receive. And so that's that number there. The municipality support, this is the line that we added when we allocated that $30,000 to the Village of Beulah for the project that they had. We created under intergovernmental a municipality support. Because we anticipate in the future, if the funding is available, this board has said they would like to support municipalities if they're able. So that's where you'll start seeing those coming from. MSU extension, so that is 710. Here you'll see they are asking for a nominal increase, and that is an increase in wages, which is the increase that MSU is then giving to those folks. The other numbers are the same. Going down to the Register of Deeds, again, it's your wages, your medical, dental, those, and so forth. You'll see here the big change in retirement, and that's because only one of the three are on DB, and that DB is in 233. These are the DC contributions specifically. No other change in Laredo or those other things. Overall, a decrease in their budget.
Extension.
Surveyor, same thing. That's a set amount. He's an elected position. And so this is a flat budget too. Economic development activity. This is for the commitment that you've made to that partnership. In addition to, we technically still have dollars left that were allocated for the broadband project. There's almost no activity right now given what's going on, but I did pop $10,000 in there because if there does come activity with the bead bob and those sorts of things, we want to be budgeting for it. Those dollars were committed to broadband anyways. So we're budgeting for that activity if we get some more of that activity in the next fiscal year.
Doing APs, I did notice that there was a bill that came through on that.
We've only spent about $3,500 this fiscal year. It's very infrequent at this point because there's just not a lot of movement because of all the changes that have happened at the federal level.
It would be at some point in time interesting to revisit with Tim Malone to see of our 100%, internet for all goal percentage wise where we're at. And if there's an update of some sort.
Sure, we did get one at the EDC.
But the full board hasn't in some time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like that too.
What we want to be careful of, Katie, with that is that Mitch Shapiro, let's make sure that he's got all of his billings into us.
I actually just had a conversation with him not too long ago, and there's really not a lot of activity. Part of it is we're waiting on the NTIA to give me access to a layer, and then I have to give him access to that layer. And so they're causing some issue because they're pushing back on the reason I need the layer.
I don't think that he's probably charging us for everything he does.
He's not. He hasn't this entire time. Parks and Rec, I'm going to save since they're coming in next week, so I won't worry about it. And then we go into transfers out. So this is the different transfers that we are making to the different departments as well as contingency. So to animal control, we're transferring out 27,174. The child care fund, we anticipate transferring out 100,000. The law library, 20,200. And then the MIDC 156,684. We are not, and then 15,000 to the airport authority, which we talked about earlier, and then the lien services that was into 261. We are not anticipating using general fund dollars to balance the jail or any of those other funds specifically. That is the general fund at a quick high level.
Most of what we touched on, they were either decreases or staying flat.
And the only reason, honestly, that you are seeing so much money into contingency this year is that one-time grant we got through MSP for cybersecurity and technology enhancements. That is gone next year. So if we wouldn't have had that grant this year, you would have seen that we were budgeting the use of fund balance and there was nothing going into contingency. So therefore, we couldn't balance the budget without that grant.
there any other questions or comments? Probably exhausted yourselves, but go ahead.
So this is based on August 4th. Everything is hunky-dory and we've got what we want, right?
August
This is-
4th is next budget year. This
Oh,
is the
that's right,
last
that's right.
levy of the
Yep.
current millage. That's what this is.
That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good question. Important, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I think most people would need that clarification.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is thinking next year. August 4th is thinking next year.
That's right.
Mhm. We have to think about how much is that general fund gonna grow? And then we went through some of the budgets today, where we need general fund dollars to support those other budgets, like central dispatch specifically. So all of those things are things that we have to be thinking about when we're planning for the future of the general fund. The general fund's gonna be what it's gonna be, but then all these other funds need help, which is gonna come from that general fund.
That's right.
Katie, based on what we accomplished today, next Tuesday, when we come back to this discussion, how much time do you think we'll need to put aside for it?
The same.
About 3 hours?
Yeah, so we're gonna end up going through this probably again, and the sheriff will be here to go through his portion of it. We're also gonna have Gallagher here to go through all the benefits stuff. And then we're gonna go through the capital fund next time as well, in addition to all those little ancillary ones that we always high level look at. So I would say another 3 hours
It's our understanding Gallagher will have a quote from the pool,
as well.
which should have been in my inbox this morning.
And so for those that don't know about the pool is the West Michigan Health Insurance Pool. It's a pool that was created by local governments and schools to pool resources to try to get better renewals for health insurances. We've talked about before, the only opportunity to join the pool was if we were with Gallagher. We've asked Gallagher to explore it. We told them we didn't know if we would make a change at this point, because if we make a change, it's a pretty big, it could be a big headache for our staff. And as you know, we just went through that big headache of a change 2 fiscal years ago, which there was a lot of negative rollout. So we are treading lightly, but we wanted them to quote it to see, is there going to be a savings, or maybe there's not going to be a savings? Any other questions? I will send the court stuff to you from Manistee. Anything else that you want in the meantime? Okay. All I got?
We'll move.
Yeah, then take them home, but bring them back next Tuesday.
Yes,
We
don't get
need
rid of
them
these.
Tomorrow.
Nope, you don't need them tomorrow. No budget tomorrow.
Need a motion for adjournment?
First, we had last public input.
Anybody want to talk from the public? Hearing none, we'll close public input.
I moved to adjourn or whatever.
Or whatever he
We
said.
got support?
I'll support.
Thank you. Anybody opposed?